Hey guys, tonight we're going to dive into the heart of an empire that conquered almost everything it touched, Rome. But we're not talking about emperors, gladiators, or the grandeur of the Colosseum. Instead, we're zooming in on something far less glamorous yet crucial, the roads that helped make the Roman Empire what it was. Picture yourself in ancient Rome, standing at the center of a bustling forum, hearing the sound of chariots and soldiers marching by. Behind them, a web of well-worn stone-paved roads stretches across the empire, guiding armies, traders, and messengers. It's a little hard to imagine, right? After all, in your world, it's all asphalt and GPS. But back then, without these roads, the empire probably wouldn't have lasted a fraction as long. They were Rome's lifeline. They weren't just paths, they were the veins through which the empire's heart pumped its power and influence. You probably won't survive this story without a dose of disbelief. Seriously, the scale of their achievements can make you dizzy. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop where you're listening from and the time over there. It's always fascinating to hear where people are joining from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The story of Rome begins with a small city, but by the time the Republic took shape, that city was making waves. The Romans weren't born great, they built greatness. And they did so with a simple yet profound tool, roads. These roads weren't just about connecting places. They were about creating a system that could enforce Roman authority across vast, unfamiliar lands. The need for roads wasn't driven by convenience. It was about power, survival, and the very future of Rome itself. Let's rewind for a moment. Picture a Roman legion marching across the rugged terrain of Italy in 300 BCE. The soldiers are equipped with all the gear they need, but there's something bigger at play. The Romans knew that to control an empire, they couldn't just rely on fortresses or legions stationed in cities. They needed mobility. Mobility meant roads, and roads meant speed. The ability to move swiftly across the land to control, defend, and expand their territory became a cornerstone of Roman strategy. But this wasn't just about soldiers. It was about the sheer infrastructure that was required to support a growing empire. Communications, trade, and governance all depended on the same roads that connected distant outposts. Rome's road-building efforts didn't just keep the empire intact. They brought the far reaches of its vast lands closer together, uniting them under a singular vision. Historians still argue whether the Romans were driven by practicality or sheer genius, but one thing is clear: the roads they built were far beyond anything seen in the ancient world before them. Sure, other civilizations had roads, think the Persians or the Greeks, but the scale and the ingenuity of Roman roads were revolutionary. Roman roads weren't just dirt tracks or cobblestone paths thrown together haphazardly. These were the forerunners of modern highways, designed with precision and purpose. And it wasn't just about the roads themselves either. It was about the systems they set in place to build and maintain them. Every piece of the road network served the dual purpose of enabling conquest and promoting cohesion. Rome understood that control wasn't just about armies. It was about making sure that every inch of their empire felt connected. Every new road, every bridge, every paved stretch of gravel was an assertion of Roman power. Even if you lived in the farthest corner of the empire, these roads told you that Rome was watching and in control. Before we get too deep into the technicalities of Roman roads, let's pause and consider this. You're probably picturing Rome as a monolith, but it didn't start that way. It was a small city-state, and the Romans had to be strategic. When they first started building roads, they had no idea just how crucial they would become. The first Roman roads were simple, rudimentary, just dirt paths carved through the landscape. These roads were initially built for military purposes, allowing Roman legions to quickly move from one battlefield to another. But even then, the Romans weren't content with mere function. They were already thinking long-term. The Romans knew that their road network had to be designed for durability. This wasn't some hasty construction. They wanted their roads to last. And that's where their genius really started to shine. They developed a system of road building that was nothing short of revolutionary. Roman roads typically had multiple layers. A base layer of heavy stones, a middle layer of smaller gravel, and a top layer of tightly packed paving stones. The secret wasn't just in the materials, though. It was in the method of construction itself. Roman roads were crowned with a gentle slope, so rainwater would drain off the sides, preventing erosion and keeping the roads intact for decades, even centuries. You can still see remnants of these roads in Europe today, nearly 2,000 years later, which is more than impressive for a system built long before modern engineering techniques. Historians still debate the full scope of Roman road-building techniques, especially the question of who exactly trained the engineers and soldiers who built these roads. Some think it was purely military men who doubled as engineers during their campaigns, while others point to specialized engineers who were sent out to oversee the larger projects. Either way, the legions played an essential role. And let's be clear, building roads wasn't easy. It involved back-breaking labor, often with soldiers using simple tools like hammers and chisels to clear paths, and sometimes even explosives to carve tunnels through hills. As Rome expanded, so did its road network. Soon, entire provinces were connected, and Roman roads started to stretch across the empire like the spokes of a giant wheel, all converging on the heart of Rome itself. Imagine standing at the center of it all, every road leading back to the heart of the empire. The Romans had a motto for this, Viae Romanae, or Roman roads, and they were the backbone of the empire's efficiency and reach. Now that you've got a taste of how critical roads were to the Romans, let's dive deeper into why these roads were more than just construction projects. They were tools of war, politics, and even survival. Rome's military might wasn't built on force alone. It was built on the rapid ability to mobilize and move forces quickly, and that all came down to one thing: roads. Roman armies were like a well-oiled machine, and the efficiency of that machine was directly tied to the roads they traveled. Think about it. When a general had to move his forces across an empire that spanned from the lush fields of Britain to the burning sands of Egypt, he couldn't afford to be delayed by impassable terrain. Roman roads gave them a distinct advantage over their enemies. Without these roads, armies would have had to traverse rough, uncharted paths or rely on slower, less effective means of transportation. You can imagine how that would have given the Romans a serious edge over their rivals. One of the most notable uses of roads in warfare came during the Punic Wars. The Romans needed to move their forces across the Mediterranean at a moment's notice. In the Second Punic War, for example, the Carthaginian general Hannibal famously crossed the Alps with his army, and although he used some rudimentary pathways, the Romans were quick to respond with their own armies, using roads to quickly reposition and prepare for battle. In that context, the Roman roads allowed them to quickly send reinforcements, supplies, and even communication to key fronts. Hannibal's march, as bold as it was, showed just how important it was to control the transportation routes across the empire. And while these roads were vital to military strategy, they were also an incredible asset when it came to political power. The Roman legions weren't just fighting battles, they were spreading Roman influence far and wide. Road construction was, in many ways, a form of propaganda. It was a way for the Romans to declare their control over new territories. If the road was paved with the mark of Rome, it was a message: this land is ours now. Historians still debate whether roads were a tool of imperial domination or whether they were truly a gift to the provinces, aiding in trade, communication, and governance. Some argue that Rome used roads as a form of soft power, building infrastructure that made life easier in conquered lands, thereby winning hearts and minds. Others point out that roads were primarily a means to control and monitor territories. Whatever the case, the fact remains that roads were integral to Rome's imperial structure. But let's not forget that these roads weren't all about armies and conquest. The construction of roads also opened up a whole new world for ordinary citizens. Imagine being a farmer in Gaul, where life was often slow and isolated. Suddenly, roads began to connect your village to distant towns and cities. Trade routes opened up, and goods began to flow. If you had a surplus of grain, there were markets where you could sell it. The vast network of roads allowed the Romans to circulate resources efficiently, which in turn helped fuel a booming economy. Take, for example, the Roman road Via Egnatia, which stretched across the Balkans, connecting Byzantium, modern-day Istanbul, to the Adriatic coast. This road, and others like it, helped trade flourish in provinces that had once been cut off from the Mediterranean world. Silk, spices, wine, and olive oil all flowed more freely along these roads. So while the roads were certainly about keeping the empire together militarily and politically, they were also about creating an interconnected economic world. And it wasn't just trade goods that moved along these roads. Ideas and culture did too. In fact, one of the unintended consequences of this road system was the spread of Roman culture to distant provinces. Towns and cities that were once separate from the Roman world found themselves adopting Roman architecture, Roman law, and Roman ways of life. People began to travel, whether for business, religious pilgrimages, or pleasure, and through this travel they brought with them their own customs, beliefs, and innovations. The roads played an essential role in creating a more cosmopolitan empire. Historians still argue whether the spread of Roman culture was a deliberate effort to Romanize the provinces, or whether it was an organic result of the sheer interconnectedness of the empire. What we do know is that roads were key to this cultural exchange. Without the roads, it would have been much harder for Romans to integrate the diverse peoples they conquered into the empire's vast social fabric. But before you start thinking the roads were all sunshine and roses, let's take a moment to reflect on the immense costs involved in constructing these roads. It wasn't just about slapping down some stones and calling it a day. Roman road construction required a vast amount of labor and resources. We're talking thousands of soldiers, slaves, and even skilled laborers, all working to carve roads into some of the most difficult terrain you could imagine. And once the roads were built, the task didn't end there. Maintenance was a constant necessity. Local populations were often charged with the upkeep of the roads in their area, which could lead to resentment or even rebellion if the roads fell into disrepair. The Roman Empire had to strike a careful balance between demanding labor and keeping the local populations content. Even so, the payoff was undeniable. The roads were not just a technical achievement, they were a symbol of Roman power, of their ability to shape the world in their image. And as the centuries passed, these roads continued to serve the empire in ways the Romans themselves might never have fully appreciated. Today, when you look at a map of modern Europe, it's impossible to ignore the influence of Roman roads. The traces of their paths still remain, and the impact of their engineering feats can be seen in every highway we drive. As the Roman Republic expanded, so did its ambitious infrastructure projects. The first Roman roads weren't the polished, well-laid highways we associate with the empire's peak. They were rough and rudimentary, often designed with military purposes in mind, quickly traversable paths that enabled legions to march swiftly between key cities and battlefields. But even these initial roads were built with a long-term vision, a foresight that would eventually lead to the vast network of roads that connected the Roman world. The first true Roman road was the Via Appia, also known as the Appian Way, constructed in 312 BCE. Imagine standing at the foot of this monumental road, paved with large stone blocks that connected Rome to the southern regions of Italy. It wasn't just a road, it was a statement of power. The Appian Way allowed Roman soldiers to march southward to engage with enemies like the Samnites and the Greeks, all while asserting Roman dominance over these territories. This road wasn't just a military necessity. It symbolized the expansion of Roman influence. Each stone laid was another step toward the grand vision of a unified empire. The construction of the Appian Way is often hailed as one of Rome's greatest achievements, an engineering marvel that began a transformation in the way roads were constructed across the empire. Historians still argue whether the Via Appia was entirely a military necessity or whether it was also an early attempt to create infrastructure for the growth of trade and the economy. While it's clear that the Appian Way served the military needs of the time, there's no denying that this was also a trade route in the making. Its completion paved the way for merchants and travelers to move more easily, transporting goods, ideas, and culture between Rome and the southern provinces. But the Appian Way wasn't just a one-off success. It was only the beginning. As the Roman Empire grew, so did its need for more roads. roads that didn't just connect Rome to its colonies, but tied the empire together like the threads of a vast tapestry. These roads allowed the empire to function at its peak, supporting a centralized government, enabling commerce, and moving military forces as needed. The Roman road network wasn't just about convenience, it was about control. The roads enabled a swift flow of communication, supplies, and legions, making the Romans masters of their own world. The Romans, though, didn't just throw roads together as they expanded, they were deliberate in their approach. Each new road was constructed to endure the test of time, built to be straight, wide, and durable. In fact, the Romans became so skilled in their road-building methods that many of their roads lasted for centuries, still visible today, even after the fall of the Roman Empire. The process of road construction was both meticulous and rigorous. The Roman engineers, with their sharp minds and precise tools, set the foundation for a modern road system centuries ahead of its time. The roads were built in layers. First, a base of large stones to provide stability, then smaller gravel and sand to ensure drainage, and finally, a surface of tightly fitted stones to create a smooth, durable path. The Romans even took weather into account, making sure roads were built to handle rainfall by creating slight curves and drainage systems that kept them from flooding or eroding away. The fact that many Roman roads have survived thousands of years is a testament to the ingenuity behind their construction. One of the quirkiest aspects of Roman roads was the use of curbs. Yes, curbs. These weren't just aesthetic additions to the roads. They served a crucial purpose. They helped manage the flow of water, guiding it off the roads during storms, and they marked the boundaries of the road. What's more, Roman roads were built with a slight camber, a raised middle, which meant that rainwater would naturally run off to the sides, preventing erosion. This clever drainage system ensured the road's longevity. Historians still debate whether the Roman road system's success was due to the sheer manpower behind it, or if the Romans' focus on efficiency and practicality truly set them apart. One thing is certain, though, the impact of their roads was unparalleled. The concept of creating a network of interconnected roads was revolutionary, and as the empire expanded, this network grew to cover more than 250,000 miles at its peak, with more than 50,000 miles of that being paved roads. What makes Roman roads so unique is that they weren't just for the elite. While roads in other empires might have been reserved for military use or the transport of high-status individuals, Roman roads were for everyone. They were built with accessibility in mind, designed to support a wide range of people, from traders and farmers to soldiers and politicians. They allowed for the free movement of goods, ideas, and people. Let's consider the long-term economic impact of these roads. By the time the Roman Empire reached its height, roads had become an essential part of everyday life. The Romans were able to move goods quickly and efficiently, and this improved communication and trade played a vital role in their economy. For example, grain from Egypt, olive oil from Hispania, and wine from Gaul all flowed to Rome via the extensive road network. Goods could be transported with relative speed and efficiency, and the ease of movement made it possible for Roman merchants to engage in trade across the entire empire. Historians still argue about the specifics of how this vast trade network operated. Some believe it was the roads that made the empire's economy so efficient, while others think that other factors, such as the stability of Roman law or the development of currency, played an equally important role. Regardless, one thing is clear: the roads were key to the functioning of the empire, ensuring that goods could move quickly from one region to another, fueling a thriving and interconnected economy. This incredible system of roads laid the foundation for Roman success. As the Roman Empire grew, so did its ability to project power, maintain control, and keep its people connected. Without these roads, there's little doubt the empire would not have survived for as long as it did. It was the roads that kept the empire united, kept armies moving, and allowed Rome to thrive as the supreme power in the ancient world. And as we look back on the legacy of Roman engineering today, we can still see the traces of these ancient roads that have endured for centuries. After Section 3, awaiting continue. Section 4. As we move further into the Roman road building story, We come to one of the most fascinating elements of their infrastructure, the process itself. Roman roads were not just built, they were engineered with an almost obsessive level of detail. The Romans were master builders, using techniques and materials that were light years ahead of many other ancient civilizations. And when you see the legacy of their roads today, many of which are still in use, you'll understand why. Imagine standing in the heart of a Roman road construction site, somewhere in the wilds of Gaul or across the plains of North Africa. What you would have seen was a team of soldiers and engineers working in perfect unison, creating a road that would endure for centuries. The Roman engineers didn't just mark out a path and throw down some stone. Every aspect of the road was carefully calculated. Roads were built to last, designed with a multi-layered construction that guaranteed durability and stability, no matter the terrain. The process began with surveying the land. Roman engineers used rudimentary tools, such as the groma, a type of surveyor's instrument, to create perfectly straight lines. The importance of straight roads cannot be overstated. Roman roads were engineered to be as direct as possible, with only minor deviations to bypass natural obstacles. Some even say that the Romans would cut through mountains rather than detour around them, using explosives and rudimentary tunneling techniques to create direct paths. The idea was efficiency. Get from point A to point B as quickly and smoothly as possible. Once the path was chosen, the Romans began laying the foundation, and that's where their engineering genius truly shines. The Romans didn't just throw down some stones and call it a day. No, they built their roads with multiple layers, each one serving a distinct purpose. The very first layer was known as the statumen, consisting of large stones that were packed tightly together. This foundation was critical for ensuring that the road could withstand the weight of heavy carts and legions of soldiers. The next layer was called the ruderatio, which consisted of smaller stones and gravel mixed with lime to create a solid yet flexible base. Finally, the top layer, the summa crusta, was made of carefully fitted stone slabs, creating the smooth, durable surface that travelers would walk or ride upon. One of the most impressive features of Roman roads was the way they handled water. Anyone who's ever been on a road trip in a rainy season knows how quickly a road can turn into a muddy mess. Not so with Roman roads. The Romans knew that water would be the downfall of any road system, so they designed their roads to shed water efficiently. The cambered design, a slight arch in the middle, was meant to direct rainwater off to the sides, preventing erosion and pooling. And to help with drainage, Romans often dug ditches alongside the roads and even created small aqueducts that would carry away excess water. Historians still argue whether the Romans' focus on drainage was a result of pragmatic experience or whether they understood the science behind it. Regardless, their roads were nearly indestructible, standing the test of time and weathering millennia of use. If you were to stand in the middle of a Roman road today, especially in places like Italy or North Africa, you might find that some of the stones are as smooth as they were when first laid. As remarkable as Roman road construction was, it wasn't just about the materials and the engineering. The Romans were also keenly aware of the needs of those who would be using the roads. For example, to accommodate traffic, many roads featured built-in rest areas, places for travelers to stop, stretch, and even sleep. These rest areas were known as mutationes and mansiones. The mutationes were smaller resting stops, typically used by merchants and soldiers, while the mansiones were larger, often including inns or guest houses for those traveling longer distances. Roman road building wasn't just about military efficiency or economic growth, it was also about providing a level of comfort and safety for those who traveled. These rest stops were strategically located along major routes, often near river crossings or important towns, ensuring that no matter where you were in the empire, you weren't too far from a place to rest and resupply. Imagine being a merchant traveling from Alexandria to Rome, or a soldier heading to a distant outpost in Britain. Having these rest areas along the way made the journey far less daunting. But the greatest testament to Roman road construction is the sheer scale of it. The Roman Empire at its height boasted an estimated 250,000 miles of roads, with 50,000 miles of that being paved. That's the equivalent of driving around the Earth's equator 10 times. And remember, these roads weren't just local paths. They were designed to connect every part of the empire, from the sandy beaches of North Africa to the icy frontier of Scotland. Yet, it wasn't just about connectivity. It was about control. The roads enabled the Roman Empire to function as a cohesive whole, binding its territories together and ensuring that no corner of the empire could slip away unnoticed. Each road built was another piece of the puzzle that made Rome the most powerful empire the world had ever known. Historians still debate the full scope of the Roman road network's impact, questioning how much of the empire's success can be attributed to its infrastructure. Some point to the role of the Roman legions and their military prowess, while others focus on the economic and social benefits of road construction. But one thing is certain. Without the roads, Rome's empire would have been a far different place. Roads didn't just move soldiers, they moved ideas, cultures, and people, creating a society that was more interconnected than anything the ancient world had ever seen. By the time Rome had extended its empire from the heart of Italy to the farthest reaches of Britain and the Near East, the sheer scale of its road system was astounding. But even more impressive than the miles of stone-laden paths was how the Roman military, particularly the legions, became intertwined with the construction and maintenance of these roads. The Roman army wasn't just about combat and conquest, it was an engineering marvel in itself. Soldiers weren't only trained to fight, they were also trained to build roads, bridges, and fortifications, making them both formidable warriors and master builders. Picture a Roman legion marching into the unknown, conquering territory after territory, while also constructing a permanent network of roads behind them. The men, hardened by battle and disciplined by Roman military standards, would set to work immediately upon settling a new territory. They didn't just take control of the land. They built the infrastructure that would ensure Roman dominance for generations. Legions were the lifeblood of Roman road construction. Each legion had its own group of skilled engineers who specialized in building roads. These men, known as fabri, weren't just soldiers. They were the equivalent of modern civil engineers. When a legion was tasked with building roads, these engineers would lead the effort, ensuring that every road was as straight, durable, and strategically placed as possible. In fact, Roman soldiers could build roads faster than any other civilization of their time. This was due to their strict training and ability to organize large workforces, which could move quickly and efficiently. Historians still debate whether the legion's involvement in road building was a sign of Roman innovation or simply an extension of their military pragmatism. Some argue that it was a calculated move to keep the soldiers busy during peacetime, while others believe it was part of a grander strategy to create an enduring legacy of Roman power that stretched beyond the battlefield. Regardless of the reason, the result was the same: roads that allowed the Romans to maintain their grip on their empire for centuries. But it wasn't just the immediate military needs that shaped Roman roads. These roads were also designed with long-term strategic goals in mind. For instance, after Rome had conquered large swaths of territory, it needed to maintain control over far-flung provinces. Roads enabled Roman officials and governors to travel swiftly from the capital to the peripheries of the empire, ensuring the central government could respond quickly to any uprisings or rebellions. One of the most famous examples of Roman road building for military efficiency came during the conquest of Britain. When the Romans arrived in 43 CE, they began a massive military campaign that saw the eventual Romanization of much of the British Isles. Roads were crucial to their ability to control this new frontier. Roads like the Fosse Way, which ran from Exeter in the southwest to Lincoln in the northeast, served as vital military routes for legions marching across the country. These roads were designed to move soldiers quickly and effectively, keeping Roman forces in constant communication and able to deploy troops whenever needed. By the time the Romans left Britain in the early 5th century, their roads had become a permanent feature of the landscape. Even after the empire's fall, the roads they built continued to serve the Anglo-Saxons, the Vikings, and even later the Normans. The roads of Roman Britain, like many of their counterparts across Europe, formed the backbone of medieval road systems and provided the foundation for the roads we still use today. The legacy of Roman military engineering wasn't just in their battle strategies, it was in the physical infrastructure that bound the empire together. But not all Roman roads were constructed for military purposes. As we saw earlier with the Via Appia, roads also played a role in trade, travel, and even governance. Roman merchants, traveling along the same roads as soldiers, were able to move goods quickly from one province to another. The speed and efficiency of this transportation network were unprecedented in the ancient world. Take, for example, the journey of a merchant carrying wine from the vineyards of Gaul to the markets in Rome. This wasn't an easy journey, especially when you consider the rugged terrain that lay between the two regions. But the road network allowed merchants to move their goods faster and with fewer obstacles. Whether you were a soldier or a merchant, the efficiency of Roman roads made long-distance travel not just possible, but relatively easy. Historians still argue whether the creation of these roads was primarily a military endeavor or a necessary development for Rome's economic expansion. Some scholars contend that the roads were initially built to support the empire's military presence, but that over time they evolved into vital trade routes that supported the flow of goods and wealth. Others argue that the roads were always a key element of Rome's broader imperial strategy, ensuring the empire's growth and maintaining its control over its vast territories. Whatever the motivation, the result was clear: a road network that bound the Roman Empire together, linking distant provinces and ensuring that Rome's influence reached from the Atlantic Ocean to the heart of Mesopotamia. The military and economic aspects of Roman road building may seem like two separate things, but in reality, they were intimately connected. Roads made it easier for the Romans to move their armies and maintain control over distant territories, but they also helped the empire thrive economically. They facilitated trade, communication, and the exchange of ideas across vast distances, making the empire more cohesive and unified than any other civilization before it. And it wasn't just about commerce and war. Roads also had a profound impact on culture. The movement of people, both within the empire and between provinces, helped spread Roman culture to the farthest reaches of the empire. Whether it was a Roman senator traveling from Rome to a distant province, or a merchant bringing a piece of Greek art to the city of Rome, roads made the exchange of culture and ideas far more efficient. In a way, the roads were the highways of cultural exchange, allowing Rome's language, laws, and customs to spread far beyond the Italian peninsula. The ingenuity of Roman road construction extended far beyond just laying down stones and creating a path to walk on. It was in the details, the planning, the materials, the maintenance, that Roman roads truly stood out. As the empire expanded, it wasn't just the armies that depended on these roads. It was the entire infrastructure of the Roman world, from local governance to trade networks. Every stone laid had a purpose, and every road built carried a legacy that would influence civilizations for centuries to come. One of the most remarkable aspects of Roman roads was the precision with which they were laid. The Romans were renowned for their commitment to straight lines. If you've ever driven along a modern highway, you've probably noticed that the road often winds around natural barriers, hills, rivers, forests. But Roman engineers didn't make these concessions. They aimed for direct routes, cutting through mountains, forests, and even swamps to ensure that the roads ran as straight as possible. In some cases, when a natural obstacle like a river or mountain stood in their way, the Romans didn't just detour around it, they went straight through it, building bridges and tunnels to keep the road moving. The Romans weren't concerned with following the landscape. They reshaped the landscape to fit their needs. This relentless pursuit of straightness didn't just make the roads more efficient, it also made them a symbol of Roman control. Straight roads were a statement. We've conquered the land, and we are going to lay down our path right through it. The sheer audacity of Roman engineers carving through nature's obstacles is staggering. In fact, some of the most impressive surviving examples of Roman roads are those that were literally cut through rock. When faced with a steep mountain or a rocky ridge, the Romans didn't hesitate to dynamite their way through, creating tunnels that allowed the roads to continue in a straight line. This kind of bold engineering wasn't just about convenience, it was a show of power, a demonstration that the Roman Empire could bend nature itself to its will. Historians still debate the reasoning behind this insistence on straight roads. Was it a practical necessity for efficient military movement, or was it simply a mark of Roman engineering pride? Some argue that the straightness of Roman roads was crucial for the rapid movement of troops across vast territories, while others believe that it was more of a symbolic gesture, reinforcing Roman dominance and power. Either way, the legacy of these roads endures. Now, beyond just the military and symbolic reasons for the road's construction, one of the most genius aspects of Roman roads was the drainage system. Roads are prone to erosion, especially in areas with heavy rainfall. But Roman engineers didn't leave this to chance. They designed roads with a slight crown in the middle to ensure water would naturally run off to the sides, preventing the roads from becoming flooded or washed away. On top of this, they dug ditches along the sides of the roads to carry the water away from the path. In places where heavy water flow was a concern, they even built small aqueducts to manage excess rainfall. It's no exaggeration to say that the Roman approach to road drainage was centuries ahead of its time. In addition to the crown and ditches, the Romans also added small drainage holes to the surface of the roads to allow water to flow off. These drainage systems kept the roads in good condition for years, preventing the need for constant repairs. And when roads did need repairs, it wasn't just a local matter. The state, recognizing the importance of its infrastructure, took responsibility for maintaining these roads, ensuring that they stayed in usable condition. Local officials were assigned the task of overseeing the upkeep, and when repairs were needed, they could mobilize resources and labor to ensure the roads were repaired swiftly. This approach to maintenance was one of the secrets behind the longevity of Roman roads. While roads in other civilizations might have fallen into disrepair after a few decades, Roman roads often lasted centuries. Some of these roads, such as the famous Via Appia, are still in use today, having stood the test of time. But while Roman roads were designed to be durable, the upkeep wasn't always easy. Keeping a road network of that size operational required significant resources and manpower. Maintenance was a constant effort, and it often fell to local populations to provide labor. The Roman government might provide materials, but the communities along the roads were tasked with keeping them in good condition. This often meant that locals were required to repair sections of the road that passed through their land, whether it was fixing broken stones or clearing debris. Historians still debate the impact this labor system had on local populations. Some argue that the upkeep of roads was a minor inconvenience compared to the benefits that came with Roman rule, such as improved trade and security. Others suggest that this constant demand for labor could have led to resentment, especially when roads passed through remote rural areas where locals had little contact with the central government. Regardless of the challenges, however, the Roman road system remained operational for centuries, a testament to the empire's organizational and engineering prowess. The roads weren't just tools of power, they were also tools of communication. In an empire as vast as Rome, communication was crucial for maintaining order and control. Roman roads were the primary channels through which messengers and officials could travel across the empire. The cursus publicus, a state-run courier and transportation system, relied heavily on the road network to deliver letters, official decrees, and military orders quickly and efficiently. This system ensured that even the farthest reaches of the empire could stay in touch with Rome, allowing the central government to maintain control over its vast territories. A great example of this communication system in action is the speed at which military orders could be sent. A letter from the emperor in Rome could be delivered to the legions on the front lines in just a matter of days, allowing for rapid military response to any threat. In fact, the Romans were so efficient at managing this system that they could move information across the empire faster than any other civilization of their time. Historians still debate the role of communication in the success of the Roman Empire. Some argue that the ability to control information and respond quickly to challenges was key to Rome's dominance, while others believe that other factors, such as the strength of the Roman military or the stability of Roman law, were more important. Either way, the Roman road network played a vital role in the empire's success, ensuring that communication was swift, reliable, and uninterrupted. As we explore the Roman road system further, it's impossible to overlook one of the most iconic roads in the entire empire, the Via Appia. Often referred to as the Queen of Roads, the Appian Way holds a special place in Roman history, not only for its military and commercial significance, but also for its enduring legacy in shaping the very foundation of Roman infrastructure. Imagine stepping onto the Via Appia as a traveler in ancient Rome. The road would stretch out before you, a testament to Roman engineering mastery. It began in the heart of the city and made its way southeast, eventually reaching the southern tip of Italy. As you walked, you would pass through lush landscapes, quiet towns, and towering monuments. And beneath your feet, you'd feel the firm grip of stones that have withstood the march of armies, the passage of time, and the wear of countless feet. Even today, parts of the Via Appia are still visible and walkable, a direct link to a civilization that revolutionized transportation. The Via Appia wasn't just the first major road connecting Rome to the southern provinces of Italy. It was a symbol of Rome's growing power. Construction began in 312 BCE under the direction of the censor Appius Claudius Caecus and was initially intended to serve military purposes. The Roman Republic was in the midst of expanding its territory, and the Via Appia allowed Roman soldiers to move quickly from the capital to the distant regions of Campania and beyond, including the strategically important areas of the Samnite Mountains. What's fascinating about the Via Appia is that its design was revolutionary for its time. Unlike earlier roads, which were more rudimentary and suited for limited travel, the Via Appia was meticulously planned and paved with large stones, roughly hewn, yet perfectly fitted together. The road's construction included a carefully engineered foundation with multiple layers, designed to handle heavy traffic and the weight of marching armies. Historians still argue over the scale of the Via Appia's impact. Some claim it was solely a military road, designed to ensure Rome's rapid mobilization of troops. Others point to its role in the expansion of trade, pointing out how merchants would have used the road to carry goods between Rome and the provinces. But beyond its practical utility, the road also carried a psychological weight. It was a tangible marker of Roman dominance. Those who lived in its path were constantly reminded of Rome's presence. And as the road extended further south, reaching territories once held by independent peoples, it effectively connected Rome to the heart of the Italian peninsula. The Via Appia was also famous for the infrastructure that surrounded it. In addition to being a major military and trade route, the road was lined with tombs, statues, and monuments, symbols of Roman power and a reminder of the grandeur of the empire. These monuments weren't just decorative. They were carefully placed markers of the empire's presence, visible to anyone traveling along the road. Even the construction of these markers in their own right reinforced the Romans' dedication to creating an enduring empire that could be felt by all who traveled their roads. Despite the historical significance of the Via Appia, it's important to note that it wasn't the only monumental road built by the Romans. The Roman road network soon expanded into a vast web, connecting distant provinces and territories with the city of Rome at the center. For example, the Via Aurelia, which ran along the western coast of Italy, allowed for quicker travel between the capital and the Ligurian coast. The Via Flaminia, stretching northeast from Rome, linked the capital to the northern provinces. Each road was strategically placed, ensuring that the empire's military could maintain its hold over the provinces while facilitating trade, communication, and cultural exchange. Historians still debate the most significant Roman road based on strategic importance or economic influence. While the Via Appia was clearly one of the most crucial military routes, roads like the Via Aurelia and Via Flaminia were integral to connecting Rome with its allies, trade partners, and resources. In truth, The entire road system functioned as the lifeblood of the empire, making each new stretch of road another thread in the intricate web of Roman control. The importance of the Via Appia and its successors wasn't just for military efficiency. These roads also opened the floodgates for cultural and social interaction. Imagine the stories, rumors, and news that would have traveled along these paths. For the first time, people from distant corners of the empire were able to connect and share ideas, goods, and cultures. The movement of merchants, officials, and even soldiers created a dynamic exchange of information. Romans were able to spread their influence, language, and customs across the entire Mediterranean basin and beyond, helping create a unified empire. As roads like the Via Appia continued to connect Rome to the rest of the world, they also served as a conduit for the Roman civitas, the Roman way of life. Roman law, art, architecture, and even religious practices spread across the empire, all carried by the feet of travelers moving along these great roads. The integration of provinces into the broader Roman world wasn't just political, it was cultural. The roads provided the means for cultural assimilation and the spread of Roman ideas, ensuring that Roman culture would persist long after the fall of the empire. For all its practical functions, military, economic, and political, the Roman road network also embodied the Roman sense of grandeur and ambition. When the empire fell in the 5th century, many of these roads remained intact, providing a physical foundation for later civilizations. The medieval and Renaissance periods would find these ancient roads a boon to their own systems of travel and commerce. In many ways, the roads that the Romans built became a bridge to the future, connecting the ancient world with the modern one. Historians still argue whether the roads contributed to the longevity of the Roman Empire, or if they were merely one piece in a much larger puzzle. Some point to the sheer scale and efficiency of the Roman military and administrative systems as the true key to Rome's power. Others argue that it was the roads, along with the empire's legal and economic systems, that allowed Rome to thrive for as long as it did. Whatever the case, there's no denying that these roads were fundamental to the functioning of one of the most impressive empires in human history. As the Roman Empire expanded its territorial reach, the network of roads that stretched across the empire grew exponentially. It wasn't just the major arteries like the Via Appia that defined Roman infrastructure. It was the intricate web of smaller local roads that played an equally crucial role. These lesser roads connected towns, villages, and remote military outposts, ensuring that even the most distant corners of the empire were accessible to Roman authorities and citizens alike. Imagine being a Roman official tasked with overseeing a remote frontier in, say, Hispania or Gaul. You would likely find yourself traveling along winding, rugged paths that connected the bustling towns of the empire to its outermost edges. While these smaller roads may not have been as grand as the Via Appia, they were every bit as important. They facilitated communication, allowed for trade to flow, and provided the means for Roman officials to maintain a presence in areas far from the capital. Without these local roads, Rome would have struggled to maintain control over its far-flung provinces. And yet, the creation of these roads was no simple task. As the empire stretched into harsh and varied terrain, from the highlands of Scotland to the deserts of North Africa, the Romans were forced to innovate even further. They didn't just build roads in areas of easy access. They tackled some of the most challenging geographical features imaginable. In the British Isles, for instance, the Romans constructed roads through forests and marshes, cutting through dense undergrowth and unstable terrain. In places like modern-day Tunisia, the Romans built roads that withstood the harsh desert climate, using materials like local stone that could resist the wear and tear of intense heat. The challenges of building roads in such diverse landscapes gave rise to Roman engineering feats that were both practical and visionary. Roman roads weren't simply designed to be functional. They were designed to endure. In addition to the methods we've already discussed, such as careful layering and drainage, Roman engineers employed techniques that allowed roads to flex with the terrain. For example, in places where the land sloped steeply, Roman engineers would build switchbacks, zigzagging roads that allowed for a safer, more gradual ascent or descent. These engineering solutions helped roads maintain their durability even in the most treacherous landscapes. Historians still argue over the true extent of Roman road building expertise. Some scholars argue that Roman engineers were as important to the empire's success as its military leaders. After all, without roads, Roman legions would have been unable to respond to threats quickly, and communication between the capital and distant provinces would have been sluggish. Other historians believe that the road building projects were more about empire building, symbols of Roman authority that stretched across vast territories. Either way, the fact remains that Roman roads were the threads that wove the empire together, linking distant corners of the world to Rome. The benefits of these roads weren't confined to just the military or administrative functions of the empire. As we've seen before, trade flourished as a result of the roads, with merchants able to transport goods from one province to another in ways that were previously unimaginable. But the roads also facilitated a different kind of exchange, one that wasn't just about physical goods, but ideas and cultures. Roman roads allowed for the flow of ideas between different regions of the empire. The spread of Roman law, architecture, and philosophy was made possible by the very roads that connected the empire's diverse territories. Think about it. Travelers, philosophers, and officials could move from province to province, carrying their knowledge and culture with them. One of the most significant outcomes of this cultural exchange was the Romanization of the provinces. Through the spread of Roman infrastructure, laws, and customs, the empire ensured that its cultural influence permeated every part of its vast territory. But while the roads enabled the spread of Roman culture, they also facilitated the movement of foreign influences into the heart of the empire. Trade along the roads brought exotic goods from the east, including silk, spices, and precious stones. The movement of people, from soldiers to traders, also brought foreign ideas and practices to Rome. This constant exchange between cultures enriched Roman society, creating a dynamic, cosmopolitan atmosphere in cities like Rome, Alexandria, and Carthage. Of course, not all of the exchange was entirely peaceful. As the Roman road system grew, it also allowed for the movement of ideas and philosophies that posed a challenge to Roman authority. Christianity, for example, spread rapidly along these roads, reaching the furthest corners of the empire. Early Christian missionaries, including Paul of Tarsus, used the roads to carry their message, and soon Christian communities were flourishing throughout the Roman Empire. Christianity's eventual rise to prominence as the state religion marked a profound shift in the Roman world, one that could never have happened without the extensive network of roads that connected all corners of the empire. Historians still debate the extent to which the Roman road system influenced the spread of Christianity. Some argue that the roads played a vital role in spreading the religion, while others contend that the rise of Christianity was a result of social and political factors rather than infrastructure. Regardless of the cause, it's clear that the roads were instrumental in the movement of ideas, both religious and secular, across the empire. As the empire expanded and solidified its grip on power, the role of roads in facilitating the Roman military's operations continued to evolve. Roads allowed Roman legions to move quickly, and their strategic placement ensured that troops could be deployed where needed most. In many cases, Roman roads were deliberately constructed to follow the most direct path between key military outposts, ensuring that armies could march to reinforce a position or engage a new threat with minimal delay. In fact, some of the most well-preserved Roman roads we see today were originally military routes, designed for speed and efficiency. Many of these roads still serve as critical transportation corridors in modern Europe. It's a testament to the durability of Roman engineering that so many of their roads have remained in use for over 2 millennia, albeit with some updates and modifications. Historians still debate whether the Roman Empire could have sustained its dominance for as long as it did without the extensive road system. Some argue that the roads were essential to the empire's ability to respond quickly to internal and external threats, while others point to other factors, such as the size and strength of the Roman military or the Roman system of governance. But one thing is certain: without the roads, the Roman Empire would have been a much different place. As we continue tracing the Roman road network's immense influence on the empire, we must consider one of the key aspects of Roman infrastructure that contributed to both military control and the growth of trade: milestones. These simple yet powerful markers were a common feature along Roman roads, yet their significance went far beyond their function as navigational aids. Milestones were placed at regular intervals along the roads, often every mile, marking the distance from one point to another. These markers were not just practical, helping travelers gauge how far they had to go. They also reinforced Roman authority and presence. Each milestone typically displayed the name of the emperor or the official responsible for the road's construction or maintenance, along with the distance to Rome or to other significant locations. In this way, milestones were a constant reminder to anyone traveling the roads that they were in the heart of the Roman Empire. Imagine a Roman soldier marching from the farthest reaches of the empire, perhaps from the rugged lands of Britannia. As he travels down the Via Augusta or the Via Claudia, he would pass these milestones, small but powerful reminders of the empire's vastness. Every milestone, with its Roman inscription, was a signpost on the way to the empire's heart, Rome. And this wasn't just a military feature. It was part of a larger, coordinated system of communication that kept the empire running smoothly. Milestones also played a key role in maintaining the empire's administrative structure. By marking exact distances, they allowed for more efficient tax collection, the delivery of official communications, and the movement of the military. A letter sent from Rome to a distant province, for example, would pass through a series of milestones, each one helping to track the letter's journey, ensure it was going in the right direction, and confirm its arrival at the right destination. Roman engineers designed their roads and their systems around the concept of efficiency, and milestones were one of the easiest ways to create accountability across such vast distances. Historians still debate how much the Roman milestone system influenced the later development of road signs and markers. Some argue that the idea of marking distances was purely practical, created to help the Roman legions and administrators. Others suggest that these milestones played a psychological role in reinforcing the idea of an empire that spanned across the known world, always visible, always near. Whatever the reason, these stone markers became a staple of Roman roadways, helping connect the empire's people and reinforcing the Roman sense of unity. But milestones weren't the only way Rome kept its roads functioning as tools of control and communication. Another important feature of Roman roads was the system of cursus publicus, the state-run courier service. The cursus publicus relied heavily on the road network to move letters, military orders, and other official correspondence quickly across the empire. Imagine being a Roman official in Alexandria, receiving urgent news that needed to be relayed to the emperor in Rome. The cursus publicus ensured that news could travel from the farthest reaches of the empire to the center in a matter of days. What made this system so effective was the infrastructure that supported it. Along the major roads, rest stops called mutationes were established. These were places where messengers could rest, change horses, and continue their journey without delay. In more important locations, larger mansions offered overnight accommodations, food, and fresh horses. This courier system, along with the roads that connected the empire, allowed Rome to communicate across distances more effectively than any previous empire. It was the lifeblood of Roman governance, ensuring that the emperor's word could reach the farthest corners of the empire quickly and efficiently. Historians still argue over the exact role of the cursus publicus in the empire's military success. Some suggest it was the key to Roman military dominance, enabling commanders to issue commands rapidly and respond to emergencies with remarkable speed. Others point out that it was the political stability of Rome and its vast network of roads that allowed the cursus publicus to function so effectively. However, there's no denying that the system helped Rome maintain control over its far-flung territories. The Roman Empire wasn't just united by roads, it was connected by a continuous stream of communication. As we move away from military and administrative matters, we must consider the economic impact of Roman roads and the cursus publicus. These roads were crucial for trade, and they made it possible for merchants to move goods between provinces with relative ease. Goods from all over the empire, olive oil from Hispania, grain from Egypt, and wine from Gaul, could travel across the roads quickly and efficiently, allowing for a flow of resources that helped sustain the empire's massive population. The role of Roman roads in facilitating trade cannot be overstated. Without these roads, the Roman economy would have been severely limited. They allowed merchants to transport goods between regions, opening up markets and creating wealth. For instance, a trader in Rome could buy a surplus of grain from Egypt, load it onto carts, and send it north along the Via Egnatia to sell it in the provinces. Similarly, Roman roads allowed for the movement of luxury goods, such as silks and spices from the east through the empire to Rome. The roads connected the Roman world in ways that were unimaginable to other ancient civilizations. Historians still debate the exact role that the Roman road network played in the development of the empire's economy. Was the success of Roman trade due to the efficiency of their roads, or were there other economic factors, such as the stability of Roman governance and the use of Roman currency, that played a more significant role? While the question remains unresolved, one thing is clear. The roads were an essential part of the economic fabric that held the empire together. In the end, Roman roads were about more than just moving goods, people, or troops. They were about creating an interconnected empire, a system where communication, trade, and military operations could all function smoothly across vast distances. And as we look at the Roman road network today, with remnants still visible across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East, it's clear that their roads weren't just paths through the land. They were pathways to power, prosperity, and unity. The Roman road system was the backbone of the empire, and without it, Rome would have never achieved the lasting influence it did. As the Roman Empire expanded, the road network grew in complexity and scale, linking not just Rome and its surrounding provinces, but also the farthest reaches of the empire. From the North African coast to the hills of northern Britain, from the deserts of Arabia to the shores of the Black Sea, Roman roads were designed to connect the empire, facilitating communication, military operations, trade, and cultural exchange. The Roman Empire had a vast and sophisticated infrastructure, and at the heart of it all was its road system. To fully appreciate the importance of these roads, it's crucial to understand that they weren't just functional, they were part of a larger Roman ideology. The roads were designed to do more than just move goods and soldiers. They were symbols of Roman power and control. The sheer presence of Roman roads in far-off provinces was a constant reminder to local populations of the empire's dominance. In a world where most civilizations relied on rudimentary paths, the Romans created a seamless, highly efficient network that allowed them to maintain their grip on the empire, ensuring that their influence extended across an area larger than any empire before it. As the road system expanded into these remote territories, it often paved the way for Roman settlers to move into newly conquered regions. The roads connected distant military outposts to urban centers, bringing Roman citizens and their culture to the far-flung corners of the empire. Roman roads became conduits for migration, allowing Romans to colonize and integrate conquered territories. Whether it was settlers from Rome heading to the provinces or local populations moving within the empire, the roads facilitated the movement of people and ideas. These migrations were key to Romanization, the process through which local customs and traditions in conquered areas were gradually replaced or modified by Roman ways. The Romans weren't just conquering land, they were changing the cultures of the places they conquered. Roman law, architecture, language, and religion were carried along these roads, spreading Roman influence far and wide. Roman roads were the physical manifestation of Roman imperialism, a tool used to integrate distant regions into the empire's vast administrative, cultural, and economic systems. However, as with every empire, not all was smooth sailing. The Roman Empire's vastness and its extensive road network also posed challenges. Communication could still be slow in the most remote provinces, and rebellions or uprisings could spring up in outlying areas. The size of the empire meant that the Roman military was often stretched thin. Yet, despite these challenges, the road system allowed the Romans to maintain a degree of control over their vast territories. When uprisings occurred, the roads allowed Roman legions to move swiftly and decisively. The roads ensured that Rome's military could maintain a presence and respond quickly to any threat, no matter how distant. In addition to military and governmental use, the roads also had a profound impact on the daily lives of ordinary Romans. Roman roads weren't just about grand military campaigns or the movement of goods. They were about improving the lives of regular citizens. The roads allowed people to travel for work, leisure, or religious reasons. Pilgrims traveled to holy sites, merchants moved goods, and students and teachers exchanged knowledge. The roads facilitated not only the flow of material goods, but also the exchange of ideas and culture. The influence of Roman roads wasn't just limited to the Roman Empire. As the empire fell, the legacy of the road system lived on. Roman roads influenced the infrastructure of medieval Europe and were a key factor in the development of the road systems we use today. The basic principles behind Roman road construction, layering, drainage, and the use of durable materials continue to shape modern engineering. Take, for instance, the construction of roads during the Renaissance. Many of the major trade routes that crisscrossed Europe were based on ancient Roman roads. In fact, many medieval and Renaissance road builders would have drawn inspiration from Roman engineering when laying out their own roads. In this way, Roman roads didn't just vanish with the fall of the empire, they left a lasting mark on European infrastructure. Historians still debate how much the decline of the Roman Empire can be attributed to the road network's deterioration. Some argue that as the empire weakened, the maintenance of these vital roads began to slip, and the empire's ability to respond to external threats was compromised. Others suggest that the decline of Roman infrastructure was just one factor among many in the empire's eventual collapse. While the exact causes of Rome's fall remain debated, the fact that Roman roads played a crucial role in holding the empire together cannot be denied. As we move into the post-Roman era, it's fascinating to consider how the legacy of Roman roads continued to influence the civilizations that followed. The Byzantine Empire, which inherited much of Rome's infrastructure, continued to build roads based on Roman models, helping the empire maintain control over its territories. In the centuries that followed, the Romans' road system would become the foundation for the rise of European empires, including the British Empire. The Roman road network would eventually set the stage for modern transportation systems, highways, railways, and even our modern road signs, many of which owe a debt to the mile markers placed along Roman roads. But even more enduring than the physical roads was the very idea of the road as a conduit for empire. Roads represented the ability to unify diverse peoples, to spread culture, to bring the far-flung corners of a world together. Rome's roads weren't just paths through the landscape, they were the lifeblood of an empire, the arteries that connected every corner of the vast Roman world. In many ways, the roads embodied Rome itself, vast, powerful, and enduring. The power of Roman roads and their impact on the empire extends far beyond the physical. They were not just a tool for conquest or economic exchange, they were a lasting legacy of Roman ingenuity, their vision for an interconnected world that spanned continents, cultures, and civilizations. The roads of the Roman Empire carried more than just people and goods. They carried ideas, culture, and history, shaping the development of the Western world in ways that are still felt today. Word count. With the fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476 CE, it might have seemed like the mighty Roman road system would fade into history, left to crumble under the weight of time and neglect. But the truth is, Roman roads did not disappear with the empire. In fact, they continued to play a critical role in shaping the medieval world that came after the Romans, influencing everything from trade routes to military strategy, and even the development of modern infrastructure. Even as the empire fractured and the once mighty Roman legions were withdrawn from distant outposts, the roads they built remained standing as a testament to Roman engineering. These roads were often the only remnants of Roman control in regions that had been abandoned by the central government. Without them, communication, trade, and the flow of goods would have been severely hampered. But thanks to the Roman roads, the economic life of many areas didn't completely disintegrate. Traders, pilgrims, and even raiders still used the roads to move across Europe, and as time passed, those roads became essential for the new kingdoms that emerged in the wake of Rome's collapse. The Christian Church, in particular, found great utility in the Roman road system. With its expanding influence throughout Europe, the Church relied on the road network to send messages, move priests, and facilitate pilgrimages to religious sites. In fact, Christian pilgrimages to Rome and Jerusalem became more widespread in the Middle Ages, partly because the remnants of Roman roads made long-distance travel possible. These routes carried not just religious pilgrims, but also the ideas of Christianity itself, helping to establish the Church as a central institution in Europe. Historians still debate how much the persistence of Roman roads helped the medieval kingdoms in their quest to rebuild civilization. Some scholars argue that these roads provided an invaluable means of communication and trade, which was crucial to the economic revival of Europe after the fall of the Roman Empire. Others suggest that the collapse of the Western Roman Empire led to such a drastic decline in road maintenance that many of the roads became impassable or abandoned. What is certain, however, is that the Roman road system was more enduring than the empire itself, and its influence continued to shape European history for centuries. In the centuries following Rome's collapse, the importance of the road network grew again. During the early Middle Ages, roads were a key feature of the Carolingian Empire under Charlemagne. Charlemagne, seeking to strengthen his empire, worked to restore and rebuild many of the Roman roads that had fallen into disrepair. His efforts were not just about restoring infrastructure. They were about creating a unified system of travel and communication across his empire. Charlemagne's push to restore the Roman roads marked a renaissance of sorts, a revival of the Roman road-building philosophy that sought to unite people and places through efficient infrastructure. As the Middle Ages progressed, the roads continued to serve as the foundation for trade and communication. The High Medieval period, with its burgeoning cities and expanded trade networks, depended heavily on the Roman roads that had remained in use. Without them, the development of towns, markets, and trading routes would have been far slower, if not impossible. The spread of goods, from spices to wool, was enabled by the very roads that the Romans had constructed, linking the kingdoms of Europe with each other and with the farthest reaches of the known world. Of course, the idea of road building didn't stop with the medieval period. As the Renaissance dawned and modern nation-states began to take form, engineers and rulers looked to the past, and the Roman road system became a model for the creation of modern roads. The principles behind Roman road construction, such as layered materials, proper drainage, and strategic planning, were revisited by the engineers of later civilizations. Even the construction of turnpike roads in the 18th and 19th centuries would be based in part on Roman practices. Yet, it was not just the physical design of Roman roads that left a lasting legacy, but the very concept of an empire connected by infrastructure. The Roman road system embodied the idea of unity and communication over vast distances, and this idea was adopted by later empires, including the British Empire and the United States, which would build their own vast road networks. In many ways, the modern highways we use today are direct descendants of the Roman roads that once stretched across Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. Historians still debate how far-reaching the Roman Empire's influence was on the development of road systems in the modern world. Some scholars argue that the model of Roman roads influenced the road-building projects of later empires, while others contend that the development of infrastructure was more a product of local needs and innovations. Regardless of the debate, what remains clear is that the Roman road system laid the foundation for the modern world's transportation networks, and its impact is still felt today. One fascinating aspect of the Roman road system's legacy is its role in tourism. In many parts of Europe and North Africa, remnants of Roman roads are now tourist attractions, with travelers walking or biking along ancient paths that have stood the test of time. In Italy, for instance, the Via Appia has become a destination for both history enthusiasts and nature lovers, while parts of the Roman road network in Britain, such as the Fosse Way, continue to attract visitors. These ancient roads, once the lifeblood of an empire, have now become a window into the past, a reminder of a time when roads were more than just a way to get from point A to point B. They were symbols of power, conquest, and civilization. Moreover, the preservation of these roads and the study of Roman engineering continues to inspire engineers and architects today. Modern road systems still incorporate elements of Roman design, such as the multi-layered construction that ensures stability and longevity. The very concept of creating an interconnected network of roads to facilitate travel, trade, and communication was revolutionary, and it is something that still guides infrastructure development in the present day. Even more than a physical legacy, Roman roads represented an idea, the concept of an interconnected world, linked by a single empire that spanned continents. In many ways, the Roman road system was the backbone of Rome's power. Without it, the empire would not have been able to function as it did, and without it, the cultural and economic exchanges that defined the Roman world would have been impossible. As the centuries have passed, the Roman road system has not only left its mark on the world, but continues to shape the way we build, travel, and connect with each other today. As we approach the end of our journey through the Roman road system, it's impossible to overlook just how integral these roads were to the enduring success of Rome's empire. The Romans were not just conquerors of land, they were masters of connection, and the roads they built helped weave together a sprawling empire that lasted centuries. But what happened to the Roman roads once the empire began to crumble? As the Western Roman Empire fell in 476 CE, many expected the intricate network of Roman roads to fade into disrepair, consumed by time, neglect, and the chaos of the Dark Ages. Yet what happened instead was far more fascinating. In the centuries following the fall of the Roman Empire, the roads didn't disappear. They remained as vital parts of the landscape, albeit sometimes forgotten or left to be overgrown by nature. The roads stood as silent witnesses to the disintegration of an empire, carrying remnants of Roman authority through lands now ruled by various Germanic kingdoms, Byzantine forces, and eventually medieval Europeans. The key to the survival of these ancient roads was their strategic importance, which persisted even after the fall of the empire. Despite the social and political upheaval of the time, the roads continued to serve as important travel routes, connecting towns and cities, facilitating trade, and even serving military needs. While the vast network of Roman roads had been designed for the efficient movement of legions, it was their role in commerce that truly ensured their longevity. Medieval merchants, travelers, and pilgrims all relied on these roads, even as the world around them was changing. In fact, many medieval trade routes were built on the foundations of Roman roads, making them some of the longest-lasting structures from the ancient world. The roads helped bridge the gap between the ancient Roman world and the medieval world, allowing for the exchange of goods, ideas, and culture. In some cases, medieval kingdoms even took the Roman roads as models, using them as templates to build their own systems of communication and trade. Historians still debate the degree to which Roman roads helped fuel the economic recovery of Europe in the post-Roman period. On the one hand, many scholars point to the general decline of infrastructure during the early Middle Ages, when roads became impassable due to neglect and the breakdown of centralized authority. On the other hand, some argue that the basic Roman road system allowed trade and communication to continue, enabling Europe's gradual recovery and the eventual growth of towns and cities during the High Middle Ages. One of the most compelling ways in which Roman roads helped to shape Europe's future is through the rise of pilgrimage routes. Pilgrimages to holy sites such as Jerusalem, Rome, and Santiago de Compostela became a crucial aspect of medieval religious life, and many of the roads used by medieval pilgrims were the same ones laid down by the Romans. These pilgrimage routes formed the backbone of a spiritual journey that transcended borders, cultures, and even empires. The roads, which had once connected Roman legions to distant provinces, now connected Christian believers to sacred sites, continuing to serve as pathways that unified the medieval world in its devotion. The Via Francigena, for example, was a major medieval pilgrimage route that ran from Canterbury to Rome. Its origin can be traced back to the Roman road network, especially the ancient roads that led from the Italian peninsula to the British Isles. As Christian pilgrimage became increasingly popular, these Roman roads served as vital arteries, allowing the faithful to travel across Europe in a way that would have been unimaginable without the road system that had been built centuries earlier. What's striking about the survival of Roman roads is that they weren't just functional, they were also symbols of continuity. Even as political structures crumbled, the roads remained, a visual reminder of a time when one empire ruled much of the known world. This continuity provided a sense of stability for the people who lived in the territories once controlled by Rome. The roads connected them to a distant, ancient past, one that still held a kind of cultural and political weight, even as new kingdoms and empires rose and fell. Historians still argue whether the roads played a purely practical role in the medieval world, or whether their symbolic value was equally important. Some believe the persistence of Roman roads allowed medieval rulers to maintain control over vast territories, while others suggest that the roads were largely ignored until the rise of modern nation-states. However, most agree that the physical legacy of Roman roads remained integral to the development of Europe's infrastructure. By the time the Renaissance arrived, the idea of roads as tools of communication, trade, and conquest was being rediscovered. Renaissance architects and engineers looked to the Roman road network for inspiration as they planned their own cities and infrastructure. Roads were no longer just practical necessities, they were also symbols of progress and unity. The idea of connecting people, markets, and ideas through infrastructure continued to shape the development of Europe in the post-medieval world. In fact, the Renaissance's interest in the classical world, known as the Renaissance Revival, was not just confined to art and philosophy, but also extended to infrastructure. Roman roads, seen as one of the great feats of ancient engineering, provided a model for later road construction projects. From the grand boulevards of Paris to the modern highways that crisscross Europe today, the influence of Roman road-building principles can still be seen. Historians still debate the full extent of this road revival in the Renaissance. Some argue that it was a direct continuation of Roman engineering traditions, while others contend that it was more of a rediscovery of long-lost knowledge. Regardless of the specifics, there is no question that Roman roads provided the framework for the development of modern European transportation systems. Many of today's major highways follow the routes of ancient Roman roads, and many modern engineering principles, such as drainage and layered construction, were inspired by Roman techniques. Today, when we travel on the highways of Europe, the Middle East, or even North Africa, we are walking in the footsteps of the Romans. The roads they built nearly 2,000 years ago continue to serve as critical links in global transportation networks, connecting cities, nations, and cultures. From a simple path connecting a small Roman town to a vast empire, Roman roads have become part of the very fabric of the modern world. The enduring legacy of Roman roads, from their construction to their survival and transformation, is a testament to the vision and ingenuity of the Roman engineers. They weren't just building roads, they were building the future, laying down the pathways that would continue to shape the world long after the fall of the empire. In many ways, the Roman road system is the true highway of history, linking the past to the present and continuing to guide us into the future. As we reflect on the incredible legacy of Roman roads, it's important to consider not just their physical impact, but also their symbolic significance. For the Romans, roads were much more than practical infrastructure. They were an extension of the Roman Empire's power, culture, and reach. Each stone laid, each mile of road built, was a statement of Roman dominance and a reminder to all who traveled them of the empire's might. But while the Roman roads served as instruments of empire building, they also played a crucial role in the social and cultural life of the empire. Travel was once a rare and often dangerous activity, but Roman roads made it far more accessible. People could move across the empire with relative ease. Merchants, soldiers, officials, and even ordinary citizens could all traverse these roads. facilitating the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures across vast distances. The importance of Roman roads in spreading culture cannot be overstated. The very act of moving along a Roman road wasn't just a physical journey, it was also a cultural journey. Roman roads served as conduits for the transmission of Roman law, art, language, and religion. Cities, towns, and villages along these roads were constantly exposed to the influence of Roman civilization, helping to integrate diverse peoples into the empire's vast social and political system. From the far-flung provinces of Britannia to the deserts of North Africa, Roman roads ensured that the empire's culture and traditions reached all corners of its territories. Roman roads were the arteries that carried Roman culture, making the empire feel like a connected, cohesive whole. Whether it was the spread of the Latin language, the adoption of Roman architectural styles, or the incorporation of Roman legal systems, the roads played a central role in ensuring the unity of the empire. Even in the farthest provinces, where Roman rule was often distant and abstract, the roads helped create a shared sense of Roman identity. They were the lifeblood of Romanization, enabling the empire to maintain control and influence even in regions thousands of miles away from the capital. In addition to the spread of culture, Roman roads also allowed for the exchange of ideas. Philosophers, scholars, and intellectuals traveled along the roads, bringing with them the latest thoughts and innovations from across the empire. Schools of thought, religious ideas, and even political theories spread rapidly through this network. One of the most profound examples of this exchange was the spread of Christianity. As Roman roads connected cities, the Christian message was able to travel quickly across the empire, reaching communities that had never before heard of Jesus. By the time of Constantine, Christianity had become a major force in the Roman world, partly due to the vast road network that enabled it to spread across the empire. Historians still debate whether the road system itself played a direct role in the rise of Christianity, or whether other factors, such as political stability or the appeal of Christian teachings, were more important. Some scholars argue that the roads enabled early Christians to travel between cities, spreading their message and establishing new communities. Others suggest that it was the decline of Roman power and the eventual acceptance of Christianity by the state that was more important. Regardless, the fact that Christianity spread so rapidly across the empire is undeniable, and the roads played a key part in this process. While Roman roads were primarily seen as tools of the empire, they were also sites of personal journeys. For centuries, people traveled these roads not just for political or economic reasons, but for personal and religious purposes as well. Pilgrims from all corners of the empire walked the roads to visit sacred sites like Jerusalem, Rome, and later, Santiago de Compostela. These roads, originally built for military and commercial purposes, became paths of spiritual significance, guiding travelers to holy sites and enabling religious communities to grow and prosper. The social function of Roman roads is also evident in the way that they allow for personal mobility. Ordinary people, farmers, craftsmen, and laborers, could travel along the roads to find work or to visit friends and family in distant towns. For many, the Roman road system was the key to accessing opportunities beyond their local villages. The ability to travel across the empire opened up new possibilities for trade, learning, and even social mobility. In this way, Roman roads helped to connect not just cities and provinces, but also the lives of the people who lived in them. Historians still argue whether this ease of movement contributed to the decline of traditional local structures. Some suggest that the mobility facilitated by the roads eroded local customs and identities as more people traveled to cities and became exposed to Roman culture. Others argue that the roads helped to maintain local customs while simultaneously allowing for integration into the larger Roman world. Either way, it is clear that the roads allowed people to participate in a broader network of relationships, expanding the social and cultural horizons of the Roman populace. Despite the eventual decline of the Western Roman Empire, the impact of Roman roads on the world was far from over. As the Middle Ages progressed and new kingdoms arose in the wake of Rome's collapse, the remnants of Roman roads continued to serve as key components of their infrastructure. Towns and cities grew up along the old Roman roads, and trade routes followed the paths laid down by Roman engineers. Even as political power shifted, the basic principles of Roman road building were retained, ensuring that the roads remained a vital part of European life for centuries to come. The legacy of Roman roads wasn't just in their physical construction, it was in the ideas they represented: unity, communication, and connection. They embodied the Roman desire to create a cohesive world where cultures, ideas, and peoples could come together under the banner of Roman rule. While the Roman Empire may have fallen, the idea of a connected world, made possible by infrastructure, lived on in the kingdoms and empires that succeeded it. As we move into the modern world, it's clear that Roman roads continue to shape the way we build our cities and connect our world. Modern highways, railways, and even the internet owe a debt to the infrastructure principles pioneered by the Romans. And just as Roman roads once allowed for the spread of goods, people, and ideas, so too do modern roads and communication systems help bind the world together today. Looking back on the Roman road system, we see not just roads, they are pathways of history. They connect us to an ancient past, to a civilization that shaped the modern world in ways both large and small. The roads the Romans built may have started as simple pathways for legions and merchants, but over time they became symbols of Roman power, cultural exchange, and the enduring connectivity of human societies. And in that sense, Roman roads still continue to shape the world we live in today. In examining the legacy of Roman roads, it's important to appreciate not only their historical and practical significance, but also how these ancient pathways shape the modern landscape in ways that remain largely invisible to us today. The Roman road system was not simply a technical achievement in engineering, it was an ideological construct, an expression of Rome's vision of a unified, interconnected world. The roads represented the empire's enduring presence and control, not just through military force, but through the very infrastructure that linked its disparate corners. One of the most remarkable aspects of Roman roads is how they helped to integrate such a vast and culturally diverse empire. The Roman world spanned from the windswept shores of Britain to the deserts of the Middle East, from the fertile plains of Africa to the mountain ranges of Europe. Building a single system of roads to connect these far-flung regions was no small feat, but it was essential for maintaining Roman authority. Roman roads, though designed for military purposes, also served as conduits for the movement of people, merchants, citizens, pilgrims, and scholars across cultural boundaries. Roman roads were more than just routes for travel, they were vehicles for the exchange of ideas. As the empire's reach expanded, so did the movement of culture, philosophy, and religion. The Roman roads were responsible for spreading the Latin language, Roman law, and customs across a vast swath of the known world. They also helped establish a cohesive imperial identity that persisted for centuries after the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Through these roads, ideas spread and communities learned from one another, creating a cultural web that connected all corners of the empire. One of the most striking features of Roman roads was their role in facilitating the spread of religion. Christianity, in particular, benefited from the connectivity provided by the Roman road system. Early Christian missionaries, such as St. Paul, used the Roman roads to travel across the empire, bringing Christianity to far-flung corners of the Roman world. Without the roads, the rapid spread of Christianity might have been impossible, and its transformation into the dominant religion of the Roman Empire would have been much slower. The roads acted as arteries through which the teachings of Christianity flowed, establishing churches, communities, and networks that would later shape European civilization. Historians still debate whether the Roman road network facilitated the spread of Christianity or if the faith spread organically due to its appeal. Some argue that it was the Roman infrastructure that allowed early Christians to travel efficiently and establish Christian communities across the empire, while others point to the spiritual and social appeal of Christianity as the primary reason for its rapid rise. What is clear, however, is that the Roman roads played a significant role in enabling the communication and mobility that allowed Christianity to flourish and become the dominant force in the Roman world. Beyond religion, Roman roads were integral to the movement of goods and commerce. The very concept of global trade in the ancient world was made possible by the Romans' vast road network. Goods from distant corners of the empire, such as spices from the east, wine from Gaul, and olive oil from Hispania, could be transported swiftly and efficiently across Roman roads. Trade flourished because of these roads, ensuring a steady flow of resources and wealth into the heart of the empire. It was through this trade that the Roman economy grew, creating the wealth and stability that allowed the empire to thrive for centuries. But even as trade and commerce flourished, so did the Roman military. Roman roads were designed with military efficiency in mind. The ability to move troops and resources quickly across the empire was a key advantage in maintaining Roman control. Legions could march swiftly to defend borders or quell uprisings in distant provinces. The Romans understood that their ability to respond to threats was directly tied to their ability to move quickly, and the road network was a vital part of this strategy. The roads allowed Roman generals to maintain a quick response time, ensuring that no part of the empire could easily slip into rebellion or be conquered by foreign invaders. The military importance of Roman roads was also reflected in the fact that these roads were often heavily patrolled and maintained. Roman soldiers didn't just use the roads to march into battle. They also worked to keep them in good condition, repairing damaged sections and ensuring that they remained passable year-round. Maintenance of the roads was a constant effort, but one that paid off in the long run. The roads helped keep the empire stable, facilitating not only military movement, but also communication between different parts of the empire. Roman messengers, using the same roads, could deliver news, orders, and instructions to officials, soldiers, and merchants alike, ensuring that the empire remained cohesive and efficient. In the centuries following the fall of the Western Roman Empire, Roman roads became the foundation for medieval trade routes. While many of the roads fell into disrepair due to lack of funding and maintenance, their basic layout and structure remained intact. The importance of Roman roads was recognized even by medieval kingdoms, which sought to revive and restore these ancient pathways. As new kingdoms and empires emerged in the wake of the Roman Empire, the road system became the backbone for expanding trade networks, facilitating communication between emerging European powers. The legacy of Roman roads continued to shape European civilization long after the fall of the empire. As the Renaissance dawned and Europe began to look back to the classical world, engineers and architects once again turned to Roman roads as a model. The principles of Roman road building, layered construction, efficient drainage, and strategic placement were revived and applied to new road building projects. The Romans had laid the foundation for modern infrastructure, and their road building techniques served as the blueprint for the roads that would crisscross Europe for centuries to come. Modern roads, highways, and railways owe a great debt to Roman engineering. While much of the infrastructure we use today is far more advanced than anything the Romans could have imagined, the basic principles of Roman road construction continue to inform how we design and build roads. The Romans understood the importance of a well-constructed road, one that could stand the test of time, weather, and traffic. And today, when we travel along the highways of Europe or drive down the streets of modern cities, we are still following in the footsteps of Roman engineers who built their roads with the future in mind. In many ways, Roman roads were not just about transportation. They were about creating a lasting connection between people, cultures, and ideas. Their roads helped to integrate a vast empire, facilitating trade, communication, and cultural exchange. And in doing so, they created a lasting legacy that continues to shape the world we live in today. The legacy of Roman roads is not only in the infrastructure they left behind, but in the very idea of interconnectedness that they represented. Whether it was the movement of soldiers, the spread of religion, or the flow of goods and ideas, Roman roads helped to create a world that was more connected, more unified, and more integrated than any world that had come before. As we step into the later stages of the Roman Empire, the importance of its road network becomes even clearer, not just in its military and economic functions, but in its profound impact on society as a whole. Roman roads were crucial to maintaining the empire's infrastructure, ensuring smooth communication between different regions, moving armies efficiently, and facilitating trade. But their role went beyond mere practicality. The roads were also a symbol of the empire's enduring power, its ability to control vast territories, and the unity of its diverse populations. As time progressed, the significance of these roads continued to grow, connecting every corner of the empire in ways that would shape not only Roman society, but also the future of the world. The growth of the Roman road network, particularly in the first few centuries AD, had an undeniable influence on both local and international trade. In some of the empire's wealthiest cities like Rome, Carthage, and Alexandria, the demand for luxury goods was constant. Roman roads enabled merchants to bring in products like silk from China, spices from India, and precious metals from Africa, transforming these cities into bustling trade hubs. The ability to move goods quickly and efficiently across vast distances was critical to the empire's ability to sustain its military, political, and economic stability. Without the road system, these far-flung trade routes would not have been possible, and the flow of goods, both essential and luxurious, would have slowed to a crawl. What was equally significant was how roads allowed the Romans to enforce laws and regulations across their vast empire. As the empire expanded, maintaining control over its territories became more difficult. Roman roads provided the means to monitor distant provinces and ensure that they adhered to the laws of Rome. As important as it was to control military movement, it was equally important to ensure that local populations adhered to the imperial laws. Without the roads, communication would have been slower, rebellions could have spread unchecked, and the empire's ability to govern would have been severely limited. By connecting Rome with its distant provinces, roads allowed the imperial bureaucracy to function effectively, creating a system of governance that stretched from the sands of Egypt to the forests of Germania. Historians still argue whether the administrative efficiency of Rome was the true key to its success, or if it was the military might of its legions. Some point to the roads as a crucial factor, allowing imperial officers and administrators to move between provinces, ensuring that laws and decrees were enforced, and responding quickly to issues like rebellions or famines. The Roman road network was vital to the empire's ability to communicate, direct resources, and maintain stability. Without the ability to quickly deploy soldiers or officials to different parts of the empire, Rome would have struggled to maintain its grip on power. Another important factor to consider in the story of Roman roads is their role in the movement of knowledge. The exchange of ideas was a major driver of Roman society, and the roads provided the means for intellectuals, teachers, and philosophers to travel, share, and spread knowledge. Think about the philosophers of Alexandria, traveling through the empire's roads to teach their ideas in cities like Athens and Rome, or the engineers and architects who moved across the empire, sharing knowledge about building techniques and materials. Roman roads, in this sense, were conduits for the cultural and intellectual exchange that was crucial to the empire's success. The movement of knowledge across the empire helped to create a cohesive, educated society where advancements in science, literature, engineering, and politics could thrive. This intellectual exchange, facilitated by the roads, helped elevate Roman society to new heights, as ideas from different cultures and regions of the empire blended together. The Roman Empire was, in many ways, the first truly global empire, and its road network was a key factor in its ability to maintain a sense of unity across such a diverse range of cultures, languages, and traditions. Rome's ability to connect people across vast distances created an integrated system where information could flow freely, allowing for the development of a shared Roman identity. But as the empire began to crumble, and the Western Roman Empire fell in the 5th century CE, many feared that the vast network of roads would be lost, or worse, left to decay. The fall of the empire led to the abandonment of many Roman settlements and the breakdown of infrastructure. Roads that had once been vital to the empire's military and economic success became neglected and overgrown. And yet, surprisingly, Roman roads didn't disappear. In the centuries following the collapse of Rome, the remnants of Roman roads continued to be used, particularly by medieval European kingdoms. Even though the centralized Roman government was gone, the roads they had constructed still served the same practical purposes they always had. Medieval rulers recognized the value of these roads and often worked to restore them or build new roads based on Roman models. The medieval period saw the road network reconnected, and travel across Europe was once again made easier. But the medieval world's roads were not just about trade and governance. They also helped carry the idea of Christianity, allowing missionaries and pilgrims to move across Europe, further cementing the influence of the church. Historians still debate how much the decline of Roman roads impacted the early Middle Ages. Some suggest that the breakdown of Roman infrastructure led to a dark age, where transportation became more difficult and Europe became more fragmented. Others argue that the loss of centralized power led to the development of more localized trade networks, and that the medieval world continued to thrive without the elaborate system of roads built by Rome. Regardless, it's clear that Roman roads played a crucial role in maintaining connectivity throughout the empire, and their influence didn't vanish with the fall of the empire. Even as medieval kingdoms rose and fell, the remnants of Roman roads continued to serve as critical arteries for trade, communication, and cultural exchange. In the Renaissance, the rediscovery of classical knowledge led to a renewed interest in Roman road-building techniques, inspiring architects and engineers to look to Rome's roads as a model for new infrastructure. And as the world moved into the modern era, the principles of Roman road building were applied to the construction of railways, highways, and modern cities, laying the foundation for the globalized world we know today. The legacy of Roman roads goes beyond their concrete impact on ancient infrastructure. They also left an ideological and cultural imprint that has endured for centuries. The idea of creating interconnected, efficient systems of transportation and communication has been passed down through the centuries, from the medieval period to the present day. And as we continue to build modern roads and highways, we are still walking in the footsteps of the Romans, who showed the world what it meant to connect civilizations through the power of infrastructure. As we continue to explore the immense legacy of Roman roads, we now shift our focus to how their enduring influence stretched beyond the medieval period, influencing modern civilization in ways that are often taken for granted. When we think about modern transportation, we don't often consider the ancient roots of the highways, railways, and streets we use today. Yet, much of the infrastructure we depend on owes its origins to the roads laid down by the Romans. The principles of Roman road building continue to guide the design and construction of transportation networks across the globe, making the ancient roadways a cornerstone of modern civilization. One of the most important lessons that the Romans left behind was their dedication to creating roads that were not only functional, but also durable. The Romans understood that roads needed to stand the test of time, and they incorporated multiple layers of construction with different materials used for different purposes. For example, the base layer of large stones provided stability, while the top layer of tightly fitted stones ensured a smooth, long-lasting surface. This attention to detail is reflected in the modern road systems that we use today, where the principles of layered construction and efficient drainage have been carried over, allowing roads to withstand the elements and heavy traffic. The Roman approach to road maintenance also has its modern parallels. Just as the Romans took measures to ensure that their roads were regularly maintained and repaired, modern road systems require continuous upkeep. The idea of investing in infrastructure and maintenance as an ongoing process is rooted in Roman engineering practices. The Roman roads were built with the foresight that they would need to be maintained and repaired over time, ensuring their longevity for generations. Similarly, today's transportation networks are designed with an understanding that roads, highways, and railways will need constant monitoring, repair, and sometimes even upgrading to meet the demands of an ever-growing population. As modern engineers plan new highways and rail systems, they look back at Roman methods of road construction using similar materials and techniques. The Roman emphasis on drainage, the careful selection of materials based on the landscape, and the creation of straight, efficient paths all laid the groundwork for today's infrastructure. The straightness of Roman roads, often surprising when you consider the natural landscape, was a hallmark of Roman engineering. The Romans, determined to get from one place to another as directly as possible, often cut through mountains and forests, creating roads that were not just functional, but strategically placed to connect key areas of the empire. This principle of creating the most efficient route continues in modern highway construction, where engineers prioritize directness and minimal obstacles in their designs. The concept of roads as a symbol of empire, as tools for connecting and unifying disparate parts of a civilization, has also endured. Today, we still view transportation systems as a means of connecting cities, regions, and even countries, facilitating commerce, culture, and communication. Just as the Roman roads connected distant provinces and ensured the strength of Roman control, modern road networks tie together the global economy, making it possible to move goods and people across vast distances. In the modern age, highways, tunnels, and bridges connect continents, just as the Roman roads connected the empire. The idea of infrastructure as a means of strengthening unity, both within nations and between them, was established by the Romans and continues to be relevant today. But the legacy of Roman roads extends beyond engineering and infrastructure. The very idea of creating a cohesive, interconnected world through transportation has shaped our approach to globalization. The roads the Romans built did not just facilitate military movements or trade. They created a sense of unity, a reminder that the empire was vast, powerful, and cohesive. In a similar way, the modern road networks that span across continents help create a sense of connectedness in the modern world. Whether we're talking about the trade routes that crisscross Europe, the massive interstate highway system in the United States, or the Belt and Road Initiative in Asia, the idea of creating roads that tie together distant places remains central to modern infrastructure projects. Another profound legacy of Roman roads is their impact on urban development. As Roman roads spread throughout the empire, they facilitated the creation of cities and towns. Roman settlements often grew around key intersections of roads, with larger cities like Rome, Carthage, and Antioch serving as hubs of activity, commerce, and governance. This idea of roads serving as a basis for urban planning is still in use today. Modern cities are often built around transportation networks, with roads and railways acting as arteries that bring people, goods, and services together. The urban grid systems that characterize many modern cities are in many ways an extension of the patterns established by Roman cities, where roads formed the foundation for the city's layout. But perhaps the most enduring impact of Roman roads on modern society is their role in the spread of ideas and culture. The movement of people, whether for trade, military conquest, pilgrimage, or education, was one of the key ways that cultures and civilizations influenced each other. Roman roads were not just physical routes, they were the conduits for cultural exchange, allowing knowledge, religion, and traditions to spread across vast regions. Today, the movement of people, goods, and information remains just as important, as roads, highways, and airways allow ideas to spread faster than ever before. Whether it's a globalized economy, the spread of technology, or the exchange of cultural practices, the road system that the Romans created was an early model for the global interconnectedness we experience today. Even in the world of tourism, Roman roads still have a powerful influence. Some of the most famous and well-preserved Roman roads, such as the Via Appia and the Fossa Way, are now popular destinations for tourists and history enthusiasts alike. These roads, which once served as vital military and trade routes, have become gateways to the past. Tourists walking along these ancient paths can't help but feel connected to a civilization that, while ancient, still feels remarkably modern in its vision of a connected world. Historians still debate the true significance of the Roman road system. Was it simply a functional necessity to maintain military and administrative control, or was it a reflection of Rome's broader ideological vision of unity and power? Some argue that the roads were an essential tool in building the empire, while others point to the military prowess and political stability of the Romans as the real driving forces behind their success. What's clear, however, is that Roman roads were much more than simple construction projects. They were symbols of empire, engines of commerce, and platforms for cultural exchange. Their enduring legacy has shaped everything from the way we build our cities to the way we connect the world today. As we look at the roads that stretch across our modern world, we see the echoes of Rome's influence in every mile, every bridge, and every tunnel. The Roman road system, in all its complexity and efficiency, laid the groundwork for the modern transportation networks that define our globalized world. Through their roads, the Romans didn't just conquer lands, they built the pathways for the future. As we continue to unravel the lasting influence of Roman roads, it's crucial to reflect on how these ancient pathways were more than just tools for physical movement. In many ways, Roman roads were the literal and figurative veins that connected the heart of the empire to its distant territories, ensuring that not only soldiers and goods, but also the very ideals of Rome could circulate throughout the empire. In a sense, Roman roads were a testament to Roman civilization itself, efficient, unified, and unwavering in its ambition to reach every corner of the known world. One of the most striking things about Roman roads was their ability to facilitate the movement of people, not just for trade and military purposes, but for the personal aspirations of ordinary citizens. Before the advent of modern transportation, the concept of travel was typically a slow, arduous affair. The Romans, however, radically changed the way people viewed mobility. Thanks to the efficiency of the Roman road network, people could travel across the empire faster than ever before, opening up opportunities for work, education, and social interaction that had been inconceivable in earlier times. For example, imagine a young Roman merchant from Gaul, eager to expand his business and learn about the latest trends in Roman fashion, literature, or art. Without the Roman road system, it would have been nearly impossible for him to travel to Rome, the heart of the empire, in a reasonable amount of time. But with the roads in place, he could make the journey relatively quickly, meeting other merchants along the way, trading goods, and gaining new knowledge. This enhanced mobility allowed for the exchange of more than just goods. It allowed for the exchange of ideas, culture, and innovation, giving rise to a more cosmopolitan society where borders were not just physical, but also cultural. Historians still argue whether the development of Roman roads accelerated social mobility in the empire or simply made it more accessible to the wealthy and elite. Some argue that the roads were primarily used by the elite, who had the resources and time to travel across the empire, while others suggest that the infrastructure allowed a broader cross-section of society to explore new opportunities. Regardless of the specifics, it's clear that the Roman road system contributed to a more connected, interdependent society, where people from different provinces could meet, interact, and collaborate in ways that would have been impossible without such an extensive transportation network. While Roman roads did facilitate movement for merchants, traders, and the elite, they were also critical for the functioning of the empire's vast bureaucracy. Roman governors, consuls, and other officials needed to be able to travel quickly to ensure that the laws and directives of the central government were enforced. The ability to swiftly communicate orders and issues across the empire was vital for maintaining control. The road network ensured that imperial authorities could move freely across the empire, maintaining a level of order and governance even in the most distant provinces. Moreover, the Roman military relied heavily on the road system. The legions were often the most significant force responsible for maintaining the roads, and Roman military personnel were trained not only to fight but also to build. This dual function allowed the Roman army to be both an instrument of conquest and an engine of infrastructure. The roads they built connected military garrisons, fortresses, and other outposts, creating an effective surveillance system across the empire. The road network enabled the Romans to keep an eye on their vast territories, which were often populated by people who had little direct connection to Rome itself. This vast and efficient military communication system was perhaps most clearly demonstrated during times of war. When Rome faced external threats, such as the Germanic tribes to the north or the Parthian Empire to the east, its ability to move legions swiftly along these roads played a critical role in the empire's military success. The famous Roman military strategy of divide and conquer relied on fast-moving, well-coordinated units that could be deployed wherever necessary. The roads allowed Roman generals to position troops where they were most needed and to move reinforcements in a fraction of the time it would have taken any other civilization. The strategic value of Roman roads extended beyond the military realm, however. They also became crucial for the spread of propaganda and Roman ideals. Public monuments, statues, and inscriptions were often placed along roadsides to commemorate military victories, honor emperors, and remind travelers of the empire's achievements. These markers were not only celebrations of Roman culture, but also tools of social cohesion. Whether a citizen was walking from one town to another or marching in a legion, these monuments reinforced the narrative of Rome's greatness and stability. In this way, Roman roads helped create a unified imperial identity, and even the simplest journey could serve as a reminder of the power of the Roman state. Historians still debate the full extent to which Roman roads influenced the cultural integration of conquered peoples. Some argue that the physical presence of Roman roads helped to Romanize these regions, making local populations more likely to adopt Roman ways of life. Others suggest that cultural integration was a more gradual process, influenced by other factors such as trade, military presence, and governance. Regardless, the roads were a constant and undeniable reminder of Roman power and influence, and their presence helped cement the idea that these distant provinces were not separate entities, but integral parts of a unified empire. As we move from ancient times into the modern era, it's fascinating to reflect on how Roman roads have influenced contemporary infrastructure. The principles of Roman road building, such as the use of durable materials, strategic placement, and efficient drainage, are still in use today. Modern highways, bridges, and tunnels are designed with the same considerations in mind, ensuring longevity, supporting heavy traffic, and maintaining structural integrity over time. The fact that many of Rome's roads remain in use today is a testament to the excellence of Roman engineering. Even in the age of modern technology and transportation, we still see the echoes of Roman ingenuity. Highways are constructed in straight lines when possible, and they are often placed to minimize obstacles, just as the Romans did. The idea of using a layered approach to ensure durability and drainage continues to guide modern road construction. Today's engineers still look to Roman roads as a model, not just for their technical specifications, but for their ability to connect people across vast distances and promote unity within a civilization. It's not just physical roads that have continued the Roman legacy, but also the broader idea of infrastructure as a means to unify people. Just as the Romans used their roads to create a cohesive empire, modern transportation systems continue to serve a similar purpose, connecting cities, countries, and continents in an increasingly globalized world. Roads are still the arteries of civilization, and the lessons of Roman road building continue to shape how we think about and build the networks that connect us all. As we step into the final chapters of this journey, it's fascinating to look back at the legacy of Roman roads from a contemporary perspective. In modern times, when we think about infrastructure, we often overlook the fact that much of what we take for granted, whether it's a local street, a highway, or a railway track, has its origins in the principles and techniques developed by the Romans over 2,000 years ago. The Romans may no longer rule the world, but their infrastructure and road building innovations continue to influence modern civilization, shaping how we travel, trade, and communicate. In the context of modern urbanization and the expansion of cities across the globe, the Roman approach to road construction remains relevant. Today's metropolises rely on efficient, interconnected road systems to support millions of people. While modern roads are, of course, much more advanced and sophisticated than anything the Romans could have imagined, the basic principles of Roman engineering have endured. Roads must be durable, strategically placed, and built to handle heavy traffic. The Roman insistence on drainage, the multi-layered construction, and the use of straight routes still inform the way modern infrastructure is designed. Modern transportation networks, from urban streets to cross-country highways, owe much to Roman road-building methods. Take, for instance, the modern interstate highway system in the United States, or the vast network of autobahns in Germany. Both of these systems, along with many others around the world, owe their design to the ancient principles of Roman roads. The Romans, in their desire to move armies quickly, developed straight, well-constructed roads. Today, engineers continue to follow similar routes, preferring the direct path to minimize travel time and cost. One of the most remarkable aspects of Roman roads, however, is how their impact stretches beyond just road construction. The very concept of connectivity and the idea of a united world facilitated by infrastructure were revolutionary in the ancient world. Today, the globalized world we live in has been shaped by this same principle. Modern transportation, whether it's air, sea, or land, relies on the ability to move goods, people, and ideas quickly and efficiently across borders. The Romans, in their own way, laid the groundwork for this interconnectedness, and the world that we know today, with its vast networks of roads, railways, and ports, is built on the same principle that the Romans pioneered so many centuries ago. Beyond physical roads, the Roman road network also shaped the way people think about communication. The cursus publicus, the Roman state-run courier service, allowed for rapid transmission of messages across the empire. The speed at which letters and messages could travel from the heart of Rome to the farthest reaches of the empire was unprecedented in the ancient world. Modern communication networks, whether it's the internet, postal services, or the mobile phone networks we use daily, owe much to the Roman approach to quick and efficient communication. Just as Roman messengers used roads to deliver letters across the empire, today's global networks allow for instant communication around the world, keeping people connected at the touch of a button. Moreover, the Roman example shows us the importance of long-term thinking. The Roman roads weren't built just for the moment. They were designed to endure for centuries. In the same way, when we build our modern roads, bridges, and tunnels, we must think not only about current needs, but also about future generations. The Roman legacy reminds us that infrastructure isn't just about addressing immediate demands, but about creating systems that will serve societies for centuries to come. Looking at Roman roads from an archaeological perspective, it's clear just how advanced the Romans were for their time. Many Roman roads still exist today, with remnants visible across Europe, North Africa, and parts of the Middle East. The durability of these roads is a testament to the skill and foresight of Roman engineers, who designed roads not just to serve their immediate purposes, but to last for generations. Some of these ancient roads, such as the Via Appia or parts of the Via Egnatia, are still in use today, hundreds of years after they were originally constructed. Archaeologists continue to uncover more about Roman roads, gaining insights into how the Romans constructed their infrastructure, how it supported their military campaigns, and how it facilitated their economic power. Modern technology, such as ground-penetrating radar and satellite imagery, has allowed researchers to discover hidden roads and reconstruct ancient routes that were once thought lost. These discoveries offer new perspectives on how the Romans thought about movement, communication, and empire building, further solidifying their importance in shaping the world we live in today. The study of Roman roads is also key to understanding the rise and fall of the empire itself. Roads played a crucial role in the rapid expansion of Rome, allowing armies to conquer new lands and new provinces to be integrated into the empire. But when the empire began to crumble, the maintenance of these roads, like the empire itself, became more challenging. The fall of the Roman Empire saw the slow decay of many roads, especially as external threats and internal instability took hold. However, the legacy of Roman roads was not so easily erased. Even after the empire's fall, roads continued to connect the Roman world, serving as conduits for commerce, culture, and Christianity, as well as the medieval kingdoms that emerged in its wake. Historians still argue whether the fall of Roman roads led to the decline of the empire, or whether the empire's weakening led to the neglect of these essential routes. Regardless, the enduring presence of Roman roads, even after the fall of the empire, speaks to their importance. Roads were not just tools for military conquest, they were the arteries of Roman civilization, supporting every facet of life in the empire. Their importance was not limited to the rise of Rome, but continued to shape the fate of the world long after the empire's collapse. In the end, the story of Roman roads is not just about the paths they laid across the empire. It's about the vision they represented. The Romans understood that connection was key to creating a powerful, cohesive empire. Their roads were a tool to unite distant provinces, facilitate communication, and integrate diverse cultures into a unified Roman identity. Today, we still see the importance of connection, whether it's in the roads that span our modern world, the digital networks that link us across borders, or the global trade routes that bring goods from one side of the world to another. The legacy of Roman roads is not just in the roads themselves, but in the very idea of creating connections that bridge vast distances, bringing people together in ways that continue to shape the world we live in. As we move into the final stages of exploring the Roman road system's profound impact, it's important to step back and appreciate just how far-reaching and transformative this network truly was, not only in the context of ancient Rome, but also in the way it shaped the development of civilizations that came after. The Romans, through their vast infrastructure project, created something much greater than just a system of roads. They laid the foundation for how humanity would interact with and traverse the world for centuries to come. The Roman Empire, at its height, spanned 3 continents, Europe, Africa, and Asia, and the road network it created connected the farthest reaches of its territories to the capital. In its day, this network was the largest and most sophisticated system of its kind in the world. To put it in perspective, by the time the empire was at its peak, there were over 250,000 miles of roads in the empire, with more than 50,000 miles of that being paved. That's equivalent to almost 10 times the circumference of the Earth. And though much of this system fell into disrepair following the empire's collapse, its legacy continued to influence the development of transportation systems long after the fall of Rome. Even today, when we look at modern roads, highways, and railways, we can see the traces of Roman engineering. Many of the roads we travel on today still follow the same routes laid down by the Romans, their paths ingrained in the very geography of the land. The Roman roads, despite being over 2 millennia old, have stood the test of time in a way that is rarely seen in modern infrastructure. Roman engineers were meticulous in ensuring that their roads could withstand the elements, from the heavy rains of northern Europe to the scorching heat of the Mediterranean. Modern road construction still employs many of the same techniques developed by the Romans. The use of multiple layers in the construction of roads, gravel for drainage, followed by sand, and finally tightly packed stones, was a method that ensured both durability and functionality. Roads today, while far more advanced in their construction materials, still rely on this fundamental principle, the layering of materials for stability and longevity. This technique, combined with the Roman focus on creating roads with a gentle arch for proper drainage, laid the groundwork for the long-lasting road systems we rely on in the present day. Yet the legacy of Roman roads goes beyond the physical structures we see today. The very concept of roads as a tool for empire building, communication, and trade is one that has resonated throughout history. The Roman Empire understood that infrastructure was not just about facilitating movement, it was about creating unity and connectivity across a vast, diverse empire. In this way, roads became more than just paths. They became symbols of Roman power and influence, stretching across continents and binding together disparate regions under a common framework. In much the same way, modern infrastructure serves as a symbol of unity. Think about today's highways, railways, and even the digital networks that connect countries, continents, and cultures. Roads today represent more than just physical pathways. They are integral to global trade, communication, and the interconnectedness of our modern world. The fundamental principles that Rome used to build its roads have been carried forward into the 21st century, where they help foster an increasingly globalized world. Additionally, Roman roads served as channels for the spread of culture and ideas, a legacy that continues today. Just as Roman roads facilitated the movement of people, merchants, and soldiers across the empire, they also allowed for the exchange of knowledge, culture, and religion. The most notable example of this is the spread of Christianity, which, thanks to the roads, traveled quickly across the empire, from Jerusalem to Rome and beyond. This same spread of ideas continues in our modern world. where roads, railways, and air routes allow for the exchange of not just goods, but cultural practices, technology, and knowledge. In a sense, helped to lay the groundwork for the modern world systems of trade, communication, and cultural exchange. The roads built by the Romans were the first global highways, connecting not just the physical territories of an empire, but also facilitating the exchange of ideas, goods, and people between regions and cultures. This exchange was key to the Romanization of the provinces and has continued to shape civilizations ever since. One might argue that roads themselves weren't just symbols of physical connectivity, but also of the broader idea of empire. They were the physical manifestation of Roman authority, and in many ways, they represented the Romans' vision of a united world. Today, roads continue to serve a similar function, symbolizing the connection between different cultures, countries, and ideas. The global road network, whether by car, train, or truck, is the backbone of modern civilization, just as Roman roads were the foundation of the Roman Empire. The cultural exchange facilitated by Roman roads helped build a global system that we still see in the movement of people, goods, and ideas today. For instance, the spread of Roman law, architecture, and language across the empire shaped the foundations of Western legal systems, governance, and urban planning. These influences persist today in modern legal frameworks, governance structures, and even city layouts, showing the enduring impact of Roman infrastructural ingenuity. Historians still discuss the profound effect Roman roads had on the rise of the empire, and many wonder if Rome could have reached such heights without this network. The idea of a connected empire, one where soldiers, merchants, and citizens alike could move freely and efficiently, was a revolutionary concept in the ancient world. Some argue that the Roman road system was the key to Rome's success, while others suggest that the empire's strength lay in its military and political systems. Regardless of the specific role the roads played in Rome's rise, there's no denying their impact on the empire's enduring legacy. As the Roman Empire faded, its roads remained a lifeline for the emerging civilizations in Europe. Even during the medieval period, many of the roads the Romans built continued to serve as key trade routes, connecting cities and towns that had sprung up in the ruins of the empire. The roads were not just remnants of an ancient civilization. They were essential for the social, economic, and cultural life of the medieval world. Today, we live in a world that continues to be shaped by the infrastructure laid down by the Romans. Their roads paved the way not just for the rise of one empire, but for the creation of a global world where connections, both physical and cultural, are central to our way of life. From trade and commerce to communication and cultural exchange, the Roman road system remains an integral part of the foundation upon which modern civilization is built. As we continue to reflect on the unparalleled influence of Roman roads, it's important to appreciate their role in the shaping of not just empires or civilizations, but also the fundamental concept of human connection. Roman roads weren't merely physical constructions. They were tools for fostering unity, expansion, and integration, essential components of the Roman worldview. The roads of the Roman Empire represented the belief that through infrastructure, the empire could link its diverse peoples and cultures, creating not only a common economic system, but also a shared sense of identity. Today, in our globalized world, this same spirit of connection is embodied in the modern infrastructure that continues to unite us, both physically and metaphorically. One of the most enduring aspects of Roman roads is their ability to transcend time and geographical barriers. Even though the Western Roman Empire crumbled more than a millennium ago, the roads they built persist, both in physical remnants and in the concepts that continue to underpin modern infrastructure. The most telling example of this is the way in which Roman roads laid the foundation for the development of Europe's subsequent road systems and the broader integration of trade routes. When the medieval kingdoms rose from the ashes of the Roman world, they too relied on the ancient paths laid out by Roman engineers, reviving and reworking the roads to create new networks of communication, travel, and trade. However, it's not just in Europe that we see the Roman road legacy. Across the Mediterranean basin, and even in regions like North Africa and the Middle East, Roman roads provided a lasting connection between cultures. These roads didn't just connect places, they connected people, facilitating not just the exchange of goods, but the movement of ideas and technology across continents. Roman innovations in road construction, such as their understanding of the layering process and drainage techniques, influenced the building of roads in distant lands, leaving behind a legacy that spread far beyond the reach of the empire. In many ways, the network of roads in the Roman Empire served as a precursor to the modern world's interconnectedness. Think of the vast network of air routes, or the expansive rail systems that crisscross countries today. These modern systems, much like the Roman roads, are more than just ways of moving from one point to another. They are symbols of unity, allowing for the rapid movement of people, goods, and ideas across borders and continents. The underlying idea that infrastructure can connect disparate parts of the world has its roots in the Roman approach to road building. Roman engineers understood that roads were not just about facilitating movement. They were about fostering connection on a much larger scale. And this understanding lives on in our global transportation networks today. Roman roads also had a profound effect on the idea of public space and civic engagement. In the Roman Empire, roads were the arteries of public life. They allowed people to move freely, whether they were heading to the marketplace to trade goods, attending public events, or traveling to Rome itself to witness the grandeur of the empire. These roads were more than just functional pathways. They were spaces where Roman citizens could engage with their society, exchange ideas, and participate in the cultural and social life of the empire. The concept of roads as public spaces that facilitate social interaction and cultural exchange is one that still resonates today. In modern cities, roads serve as the lifeblood of urban life. They are spaces where people interact daily, where commerce takes place, where social and cultural exchange occurs. Urban streets are not just ways to get from home to work. They are places of social interaction, of public life, of shared experience. Much like in Roman times, roads in our modern cities serve as the foundation for public engagement and interaction, shaping how people move through the world and how societies function. Of course, the road systems we rely on today are far more advanced than anything the Romans could have dreamed of, but the fundamental principles of Roman engineering remain in place. From highways and railways to modern bridges and tunnels, engineers around the world still apply the lessons learned from Roman road construction. The Roman commitment to building roads that would stand the test of time is a lesson that modern engineers have taken to heart, ensuring that the roads we build today will continue to serve future generations. Moreover, the concept of the via publicae, or public roads, which was central to Roman infrastructure, is a concept that continues to shape the modern world. In ancient Rome, roads were meant to be accessible to all citizens. The public roads connected the empire's vast expanse, and their construction was a civic duty. Similarly, modern transportation systems, though far more complex, are designed to be public resources, serving the collective needs of society. The concept of the road as a shared space, built for the common good, has endured from the Roman Empire to the present day. This democratic vision of infrastructure, where roads are for everyone, continues to guide how we think about transportation today. But Roman roads were not just for the Romans. They were also part of the empire's effort to spread its culture, language, and political systems. As Roman soldiers and settlers moved across the empire, they carried with them Roman ideas about governance, law, and culture. Roman roads were the conduits for the spread of Romanization, making them not just tools for military conquest, but also instruments of cultural exchange. This process of cultural assimilation, through the spread of the Latin language, Roman legal principles, and the very notion of Roman citizenship, was facilitated by the very roads that connected the empire. This legacy of cultural integration is something that we continue to see today, as modern infrastructure plays a critical role in facilitating the exchange of cultures, languages, and ideas across the globe. Roman roads were also incredibly diverse, reflecting the many different regions and cultures they connected. From the bustling trade routes that ran through the heart of the empire to the less traveled roads that connected small villages, Roman roads adapted to the unique needs of the areas they served. In a similar way, modern transportation networks are designed to meet the diverse needs of different regions, from urban centers to remote rural areas. This flexibility and adaptability, central to Roman road building, is a principle that continues to inform how we build our infrastructure today. As we bring this exploration of Roman roads to a close, it's clear that their legacy is far from just a historical curiosity. The roads that the Romans built were not only foundational to the success of their empire, they are foundational to the modern world we live in today. From trade and military dominance to cultural exchange and urban development, Roman roads were instrumental in shaping the past and continue to influence the way we build our societies. Whether we're driving on highways, flying on planes, or moving goods across oceans, the legacy of Roman roads lives on in the way we connect with each other and move through the world. As we approach the final stages of our journey through the legacy of Roman roads, it's important to pause and reflect on the remarkable reach of these ancient infrastructure projects. The roads of the Roman Empire didn't just connect cities, provinces, or military outposts. They connected ideas, cultures, and even the very fabric of civilization. They provided a means for both the physical and cultural expansion of the empire, and their influence continues to reverberate across the globe today. Even as time has passed, the principles behind Roman road construction, the efficiency of their design, and their commitment to connecting far-flung regions live on in the modern world's transportation networks. The legacy of Roman roads is intertwined with the concept of empire building. It was never just about laying down asphalt or stone. It was about creating a system that could sustain, support, and empower an empire. The sheer ambition behind the Roman road network was staggering. In a world without modern technology, the Romans accomplished feats of engineering that many civilizations could never have dreamed of. They didn't simply want to build roads. They wanted to create a network that could facilitate rapid communication, trade, military dominance, and perhaps most importantly, integration. Roman roads were more than just connectors. They were tools of expansion. Take the Via Appia, for example, the Queen of Roads, which connected Rome to the south of Italy and beyond. This road was not just a physical pathway, it was a symbol of Roman authority. Every mile traveled was a reminder of Rome's influence, a constant assertion of power over the newly conquered territories. The importance of these roads in shaping Rome's imperial identity cannot be overstated. They were essential for maintaining control over such a vast empire, as they allowed Roman forces to move quickly, but they also ensured that new territories could be integrated smoothly into the broader Roman world. These roads became the literal and symbolic backbone of the empire. The roads also had a profound social and cultural impact. The Romans were deeply aware of the value of accessibility, both for their own citizens and for the conquered peoples. By making travel easier, the roads encouraged trade, travel, and the exchange of ideas. Without them, Roman culture might not have been able to spread as far or as quickly as it did. The road system allowed art, literature, philosophy, and even religious beliefs to travel across the empire, shaping the intellectual and cultural landscape in ways that continue to influence us today. For instance, Christianity, which initially spread as a marginalized religious sect in the Roman world, owes much of its expansion to the Roman road network. Early Christian missionaries like Paul used these roads to travel and spread their message. The same system that supported the Roman military also allowed for the rapid dissemination of Christian teachings. Just as Roman legions used the roads to expand and enforce their control, Christian apostles used them to expand the reach of their faith. In fact, one might argue that without the infrastructure built by the Romans, Christianity might not have become the dominant religion in the empire. Historically, roads have always been a key factor in the expansion of empire. But in the case of Rome, they were a symbol of the empire's political and ideological power. In the modern world, we often take the existence of roads for granted, assuming that we can go from one place to another easily and quickly. Yet, the Roman approach to road building was revolutionary. It was not just about moving armies or goods, it was about creating a connected world. This vision has continued in modern infrastructure systems, where transportation and communication networks serve as critical links between distant regions, people, and cultures. Even today, the idea of roads as tools of empire building still holds. Modern empires, whether they are political, economic, or cultural, depend on their infrastructure to maintain dominance and cohesion. The global trade networks that define today's economy rely on efficient transportation systems, roads, railways, ports, and airports, all of which trace their origins to the same basic principle that the Romans used: connection. Just as Roman roads facilitated the flow of goods, soldiers, and ideas across an empire, today's roads continue to serve the same purpose, linking countries, cities, and communities, and enabling the global exchange of culture, technology, and commerce. But roads are not only the conduits of empire, they are also the threads that weave cultures together. The Roman roads helped create a unified world where disparate cultures and peoples were connected in ways that had never been seen before. The Romans were able to spread their language, laws, and customs through their road system, but they also absorbed the cultures they came into contact with. In this exchange, roads became a space for cultural assimilation, a place where new ideas could spread and blend. This same process of cultural exchange continues to happen today, facilitated by modern transportation networks. Take, for example, the influence of the internet and digital communication. The vast networks of cables and data hubs that span the globe, enabling the instantaneous exchange of information, are in many ways a modern equivalent of Roman roads. Just as Roman roads were the lifeblood of the empire, facilitating the exchange of physical goods, today's digital highways are the lifeblood of global society, facilitating the flow of information, culture, and ideas. Both systems are about connection, creating networks that allow us to communicate, share, and interact across distances that were once insurmountable. The spread of technology, like the spread of Roman culture, depends on these connective pathways. As much as Roman roads were about physical travel, they were equally about the movement of people, ideas, and knowledge. Similarly, the modern world's digital and physical infrastructure is essential for the movement of ideas, culture, and technology. The legacy of Roman roads, then, is not just one of engineering or construction. It's a legacy of connection. The world we live in today is a world that is increasingly interconnected, and Roman roads were among the earliest attempts to create this global web. Roman roads were built for an empire, but their legacy reaches far beyond the borders of ancient Rome. They were designed to bring people together, to integrate disparate regions, cultures, and peoples into a single, cohesive system. Today, we continue to build on that foundation, creating networks that connect us in ways that were unimaginable in the ancient world. The vision of the Romans, who saw roads not as simple paths, but as tools to shape and unify an empire, continues to shape our world today, whether through physical infrastructure or digital connectivity. In the end, the story of Roman roads is not just about roads themselves. It is a story about connection, unity, and the power of infrastructure to bring people, cultures, and ideas together. The roads of Rome, which once spanned continents and served as the backbone of an empire, continue to inspire and shape the way we build and connect in the modern world. From the trade routes of antiquity to the digital highways of today, the legacy of Roman roads lives on, carrying with it the same spirit of connection and integration that once united the Roman Empire. As we look back on the legacy of Roman roads, it's impossible to be struck by the remarkable foresight and ingenuity that went into their creation. These ancient pathways, which began as simple military routes, became the backbone of the entire empire, paving the way for the Romans to exert control over vast territories, integrate diverse peoples, and maintain a cohesive empire. Their legacy is more than just the roads themselves. It's the principles they embodied, principles of connection, organization, and long-term planning that continue to influence modern infrastructure systems and the way we think about connectivity today. The roads of Rome were not built overnight. They were a response to the practical needs of an empire that sought to maintain military dominance, economic strength, and social cohesion across a vast and diverse landscape. The initial focus on military utility was understandable. The Romans needed to move their legions quickly across their growing empire to protect their borders and respond to internal unrest. But the brilliance of Roman roads lies in how they evolved beyond military necessity. Over time, they became essential for the empire's economic activity, the flow of goods, the movement of people, and the spread of ideas. The interconnectedness of the Roman world, made possible by these roads, wasn't just a military achievement, it was a cultural one as well. Roman roads facilitated the exchange of art, philosophy, and even religion, allowing the seeds of Romanization to take root across the empire. As Roman legions marched through conquered lands, they brought with them Roman laws, governance, and culture, which spread along the same roads that had initially been built for military purposes. But it wasn't just the Romans imposing their culture on others. Through trade, travel, and intellectual exchange, these roads allowed cultures to blend and influence one another, creating a more cosmopolitan world. Perhaps one of the most significant aspects of the Roman road system was its role in the spread of Christianity. Early Christian missionaries, like the Apostle Paul, used Roman roads to travel from city to city, spreading the teachings of Christianity across the empire. The same roads that carried Roman soldiers and merchants also carried the message of a new and rapidly growing faith. This connection between infrastructure and religion is symbolic of the broader role that Roman roads played in facilitating the exchange of ideas and the spread of transformative movements. Today, this legacy continues in the way infrastructure connects people not only through trade, but through culture, politics, and religion. Modern highways, railways, and even the internet are the new Roman roads, systems that allow ideas to flow rapidly and connect disparate regions of the world. Just as the Roman Empire relied on its roads to keep its far-flung provinces connected and cohesive, modern nations rely on their transportation and communication systems to maintain unity and facilitate the global exchange of ideas. The way we think about road construction today, emphasizing efficiency, durability, and connectivity, can be traced directly back to Roman practices. The multi-layered approach to road building, the attention to drainage, the use of local materials, all of these innovations are still applied in modern infrastructure projects. Even today, engineers look to Roman roads as models of efficiency and resilience. And just like the Romans, modern planners understand that infrastructure is not just about physical movement, it's about creating systems that help communities thrive, grow, and connect. But the Roman legacy isn't just in the roads themselves. It's in the mindset that infrastructure should be an investment for the future. The Romans built roads that weren't just meant to last for a generation or two. They built roads that would endure for centuries, connecting people long after the empire had fallen. Today, the roads, bridges, tunnels, and railways we build are similarly designed to last, with the understanding that they will serve generations to come. As we've seen, the preservation of Roman roads in the centuries following the fall of the Roman Empire is a testament to their lasting value. Even as the Western Roman Empire crumbled, the roads remained. They served as the foundation for the medieval kingdoms that rose in its place. And even today, many of those ancient roads still serve as major arteries in the modern transportation networks of Europe and North Africa. The fact that Roman roads have endured for over 2,000 years speaks volumes about the skill and foresight of the engineers who created them, as well as the importance of investing in infrastructure that can withstand the test of time. In many ways, the persistence of Roman roads is a metaphor for the endurance of Rome itself. Though the empire may have fallen, the roads, the physical and cultural pathways, continue to serve as a connection between the past and the present. The same principles that guided the Romans in building their road network, the idea that infrastructure is vital to the strength and unity of an empire, continue to guide modern infrastructure development. Roads and transportation networks remain the lifeblood of civilization, allowing us to connect, communicate, and collaborate in ways that would have been impossible without the groundwork laid by the Romans. As we consider the broader impact of Roman roads on modern society, we must also recognize the power of infrastructure to shape human experience. Roman roads were not just about connecting places, they were about connecting people, whether through the exchange of goods, ideas, or cultural practices. The roads allowed the Roman Empire to flourish, but they also enabled the Romans to create a more interconnected world. Today, as we navigate our own globalized world, we continue to build on that legacy. We create systems that bring us closer together, whether through transportation, communication, or trade. Roman roads were the beginning of that vision of connectivity, and their influence is still felt in every highway, railway, and digital connection that binds our world today. Historians still debate the precise reasons for the Roman Empire's success. Some emphasize the military might, others the political and legal systems. But the importance of roads as tools of connection and cohesion is undeniable. They weren't just paths across the land. They were pathways of power, culture, and unity. And in the world we live in today, we continue to walk the same paths that the Romans once carved out. As we delve deeper into the legacy of Roman roads, we must acknowledge how these pathways laid the groundwork for the way societies interact with infrastructure today. The Roman approach to road construction was not merely an engineering endeavor. It was a holistic vision that included military, political, social, and economic elements. These roads were designed to serve multiple purposes, from military campaigns to cultural exchanges, and they left behind an infrastructure model that would influence civilizations for millennia. One of the most enduring elements of Roman road building was its ability to adapt to different terrains and environments. While Roman roads are most often associated with the flat plains of Italy and the Mediterranean basin, the empire spanned a vast range of geographies. Roman engineers, however, didn't shy away from challenges, be it the treacherous Alps, the dense forests of northern Europe, or the deserts of North Africa. They approached each obstacle with creativity and determination, adapting their techniques to suit the environment. In the rugged terrain of the Alps, for example, Roman engineers constructed roads that wound through steep mountains, building tunnels, bridges, and causeways to overcome natural barriers. The construction of roads through such challenging environments required advanced knowledge of surveying, land management, and structural engineering. Roman roads were designed to be straight and direct, but when faced with natural obstacles, engineers used innovative solutions like switchbacks to reduce steep gradients and ensure safe passage for travelers. Even in the arid regions of the empire, such as the North African provinces, Romans built roads that could withstand extreme conditions. They used local materials and adjusted their construction methods to ensure that roads could handle the heat, the shifting sands, and the occasional floods. This adaptability allowed the Romans to maintain a connected empire across vastly different climates and terrains. Today, engineers continue to use this principle of adaptability when designing roads in difficult climates, whether they are building highways in the snowy mountains or constructing bridges over vast bodies of water. The strategic placement of roads was another defining feature of Roman infrastructure. Romans didn't just build roads for the sake of transportation. They carefully considered how these roads would serve military, economic, and political functions. The empire's roads were designed not just to connect major cities, but to facilitate the movement of goods and resources from the hinterlands to the urban centers. This interconnectedness created a system where food, raw materials, and wealth flowed freely, helping to support the Roman economy. In many ways, Roman roads were an economic lifeline. They allowed merchants to travel more freely, bringing goods from one province to another, facilitating trade between regions that otherwise would have remained isolated. The roads facilitated the transport of not only food and luxury goods, but also ideas. This movement of ideas was critical to the spread of Roman culture, law, and governance, and it also helped the Romans absorb the cultural influences of the peoples they conquered. Just as the Roman army used roads to project power, Roman traders and intellectuals used these roads to spread culture and innovation across the empire. Today, the concept of connectivity through infrastructure still drives economic development. Modern highways, railways, and ports are built with the same underlying purpose that guided Roman road construction: to support the movement of goods, to foster trade, and to facilitate economic interaction. Roads are the lifeblood of global commerce, and just as Roman roads helped sustain the empire, today's transportation systems sustain the global economy. In addition to economic considerations, Roman roads also helped to foster social unity. Traveling the roads allowed citizens of the empire to interact with people from other regions, helping to break down regional barriers and creating a shared Roman identity. The roads were not just for the elite, but for common people too: merchants, farmers, travelers, and even pilgrims who sought to visit the holy sites of the empire. This accessibility was an important part of Roman society's cohesion. Roman roads, with their network of rest stops, inns, and marketplaces, became spaces for social interaction. These roads helped to create a sense of belonging to something greater than one's local village or province. The ability to travel and interact with other Romans, to participate in the larger cultural and political world, was a form of social integration that helped cement the idea of Roman citizenship. This idea of inclusivity is also reflected in modern transportation networks, which are designed to be accessible to people of all backgrounds. Roads today facilitate not only the movement of goods, but also the movement of people and ideas across social and cultural divides. Interestingly, the presence of Roman roads also had political significance. The roads were not just tools for communication, they were tools for governance. Roman officials used the roads to enforce imperial law and ensure the smooth operation of the empire. Roads allowed governors to travel quickly from one province to another, overseeing administrative affairs, settling disputes, and ensuring that local rulers adhered to imperial policies. The rapid movement of Roman officials, facilitated by the road network, was essential for maintaining control over the vast territories of the empire. This use of infrastructure for governance continues today, where modern transportation networks enable governments to maintain their authority and implement policies effectively across their territories. But beyond the practicality of governance, roads also served as symbols of imperial power. The very act of laying down roads in newly conquered territories was a statement of Roman dominance. The roads were part of the process of Romanization, where conquered peoples were gradually integrated into the Roman Empire through the spread of Roman culture, law, and governance. The Roman roads acted as a visible reminder of imperial presence. Roads meant that the empire could reach any part of its domain, no matter how remote. This political dimension of Roman roads is something that continues to resonate in the modern world, where infrastructure is often a visible marker of political power and authority. As the Roman Empire began to fade, many of its roads fell into disrepair. Yet, despite the fall of the Western Roman Empire, the road network remained vital. The Byzantine Empire continued to use Roman roads, and later medieval kingdoms recognized the value of these ancient pathways, restoring and utilizing them for their own needs. Even as political power shifted, the roads remained a link to the past, facilitating communication and trade in a world that was slowly rebuilding after the collapse of centralized authority. The resurgence of Roman road building principles in the Renaissance is a testament to the enduring influence of Roman infrastructure. As the Renaissance unfolded, scholars and engineers began to study ancient Roman texts and rediscovered the techniques that had made Roman roads so successful. These innovations in road construction laid the foundation for the transportation systems that would define the modern era. Today, modern roads, highways, and railways continue to serve the same purposes as their Roman predecessors, connecting cities, facilitating trade, and promoting the exchange of culture and ideas. Just as Roman roads enabled the empire to function smoothly, today's transportation networks are essential to the functioning of our globalized world. The principles that guided the Romans in building their roads, efficiency, durability, and connectivity, remain at the heart of how we build infrastructure today. As we reflect on the legacy of Roman roads, it's clear that their influence has endured for centuries. From their role in the rise of Rome to their continued use in the modern world, Roman roads have shaped the course of history. They were not just pathways, they were the threads that connected the empire and the world. Today, we still walk in the footsteps of those who first built these roads, and the legacy of Roman road building continues to guide us as we build the roads of the future. As we approach the final stages of our journey through the history and legacy of Roman roads, it becomes clear that these ancient routes were not just pathways across the empire. They were critical threads that held the fabric of Roman society together. They allowed Rome to project its power across vast distances, integrate a sprawling and diverse empire, and foster economic, political, and cultural cohesion. Even today, when we think of transportation and infrastructure, the influence of Roman road-building principles can still be felt. Roman roads were more than just functional. They were symbols of Roman control, unity, and vision for the future. One of the key aspects of Roman roads was their strategic placement. The Romans didn't just build roads where they were needed, they built them with purpose, considering the best routes for military, economic, and social integration. Roman roads were straight, direct, and efficient, ensuring that troops could travel quickly, trade could flow freely, and communication could be maintained across vast distances. The Romans understood that their roads were not just conduits for travel, but essential infrastructure for the functioning of the empire. The planning and execution behind Roman roads were so sophisticated that they continue to serve as a model for modern engineers and urban planners. Today's highways, railways, and even internet infrastructure still use principles that the Romans pioneered. For example, the multi-layered construction of Roman roads, which included large stones for the base, gravel for drainage, and tightly fitted stone slabs for the surface, is a technique that can still be found in modern roads. Similarly, the Romans' emphasis on drainage, with their carefully designed cambered roads that allowed water to flow off the surface, is a principle that remains essential to modern road construction. But Roman roads weren't just about practicality. They were also about creating unity. The Romans recognized the power of infrastructure to connect people and cultures, and they understood the symbolic value of their roads. These roads helped to integrate different regions, cultures, and peoples into the Roman world, fostering a sense of Roman identity. Traveling on Roman roads, whether for trade, military service, or religious pilgrimage, allowed people to experience the larger Roman world and participate in the collective Roman project. One of the most profound examples of this integration is seen in the spread of Christianity across the Roman Empire. The Roman road network played a crucial role in facilitating the rapid spread of the Christian faith. Early Christian missionaries, such as the Apostle Paul, used the Roman roads to travel from city to city, spreading their message and establishing Christian communities. The same roads that carried Roman legions and merchants also carried the teachings of a new religion. Without the Roman road system, the spread of Christianity might have been slower, and its eventual rise to dominance in the Roman world may not have been as rapid. In many ways, the Roman road system acted as a precursor to the global trade and communication networks that we rely on today. The roads facilitated not only the movement of goods and soldiers, but also the exchange of ideas, culture, and religion. Just as modern infrastructure connects the global economy and facilitates the flow of information, Roman roads served as the foundation for the exchange of goods and ideas across the empire. The roads were the arteries that allowed the Roman Empire to function as a cohesive and interconnected whole. While Roman roads were primarily constructed for military and economic purposes, they also served as spaces for cultural exchange. Cities along the roads became melting pots of different cultures, with Roman laws, customs, and innovations blending with local traditions. The roads facilitated the movement of not only goods and people, but also intellectual and artistic influences. Philosophers, artists, and intellectuals traveled along the roads, bringing with them new ideas that enriched Roman culture. The roads allowed Rome to be a center of learning, art, and philosophy, where ideas from the East and the West could converge and shape the development of Western civilization. Even as the Western Roman Empire fell, and the roads fell into disrepair, the legacy of Roman roads continued to influence the world. The Middle Ages saw the continued use of Roman roads by both traders and religious pilgrims, and the Renaissance revival of interest in Roman engineering led to the construction of new roads and bridges based on Roman principles. In fact, many of the modern roads and highways in Europe follow the same routes as Roman roads, further demonstrating the lasting impact of Roman infrastructure on contemporary society. Today, the legacy of Roman roads is not just evident in the roads themselves, but in the way we approach infrastructure. The Roman approach to road building, emphasizing durability, efficiency, and strategic placement, continues to inform how we design and build transportation networks. Modern highways and railways are designed to facilitate the rapid movement of goods and people, just as Roman roads were designed to support the efficient movement of troops and trade. The Roman commitment to building infrastructure that could endure for centuries is reflected in modern projects where the longevity and sustainability of roads and bridges are paramount. Moreover, Roman roads have influenced the modern concept of public infrastructure as a shared resource. In the Roman world, roads were public spaces that connected different parts of the empire, allowing for the free movement of people and goods. Today, public roads and transportation networks serve the same function, providing the infrastructure necessary for modern society to function. Roman roads were not just about connecting cities, they were about creating a unified empire. Similarly, modern infrastructure connects nations, regions, and communities, fostering a sense of global unity and interdependence. The legacy of Roman roads also extends to urban planning and city design. Many modern cities are designed around transportation networks, with roads, highways, and rail systems serving as the backbone of urban life. Just as Roman cities were designed with roads at their core, modern cities rely on transportation networks to function efficiently. Whether it's the street grid of Manhattan or the metro systems of Paris and London, the principles of Roman urban planning continue to shape the development of cities around the world. As we reflect on the history of Roman roads, it becomes evident that their legacy is not just about the past. They continue to shape the world we live in today. From the way we design and build our roads to the global interconnectedness facilitated by modern transportation systems, the influence of Roman engineering and infrastructure is undeniable. Roman roads were not just pathways for trade, soldiers, or pilgrims. They were the foundation of an empire that shaped the course of history, and their legacy continues to shape the world we live in today. As we arrive at the final section of our journey through the legacy of Roman roads, we can see that their influence is more than just a historical footnote. It's a living, breathing part of the world we inhabit today. The Roman road network, though built over 2,000 years ago, was far ahead of its time, and its principles continue to shape modern infrastructure, culture, and even our very concept of interconnectedness. These ancient roads were far more than just paths to travel. They were the lifelines of an empire, vehicles for cultural exchange, and symbols of Roman engineering genius. But more than that, they were tools for creating unity, spreading ideas, and connecting civilizations that in many ways continue to influence us today. The idea of roads as conduits for cultural and intellectual exchange is one of the most profound aspects of Roman road building. It wasn't just the movement of goods that these roads enabled. It was the exchange of culture, philosophy, religion, and innovation. Roman roads connected disparate cultures, allowing ideas to flow freely from one region to another. This allowed not only for the spread of Roman law and governance, but also for the absorption of foreign ideas and innovations into Roman society. The roads became a melting pot of cultural exchange, much like the modern transportation and digital networks that facilitate the free exchange of knowledge and ideas today. When we think of modern highways and global shipping routes, we are reminded of the Roman concept of connecting cultures and fostering communication across vast distances. Whether through physical roads, railways, or airways, modern infrastructure continues to serve the same purpose, facilitating the movement of goods, people, and ideas across borders. Just as the Romans once connected their empire with a system of roads, we now connect the world through highways, seaports, and air routes. The very idea of connectivity, the notion that roads and pathways can bring people closer together, has persisted throughout history and remains a core part of our modern infrastructure. The legacy of Roman roads also endures in the way we think about public infrastructure. The Romans built roads for the collective good, understanding that infrastructure was a tool for unifying people, fostering communication, and supporting the empire's economic and military functions. Today, modern roads, railways, and public transit systems continue to serve the public, linking cities, towns, and communities together. These infrastructure networks allow for the movement of people and goods, but they also foster a sense of shared space and shared purpose. Just as Roman roads were built for the common good, modern infrastructure continues to serve society as a whole, bringing us closer together and making our world more interconnected. In many ways, Roman roads were also symbols of Roman identity. They were not just functional, they were political statements. When the Romans constructed roads, they were laying down markers of imperial presence, ensuring that even the most remote parts of the empire were within reach of Rome's military and political apparatus. These roads were symbols of Roman dominance and control, and their very existence reminded people of the empire's power. Today, modern transportation systems still serve as symbols of power and unity. Whether it's the construction of new roads and railways or the development of global trade routes, infrastructure projects continue to represent the strength and connectivity of the nations or empires that build them. Moreover, Roman roads helped create a sense of shared identity among the people of the empire. They connected distant provinces, allowing people from different regions to interact and experience Roman culture. Through these roads, the Romans spread their language, laws, art, and architecture, creating a sense of Roman unity that transcended geographical boundaries. Modern infrastructure plays a similar role in creating a sense of shared identity and purpose. Whether it's the highways that connect the states of the U.S., the rail systems that link countries in Europe, or the flight routes that span continents, infrastructure fosters the exchange of ideas, cultures, and experiences, helping create a shared global identity. Even the very concept of public roads has its roots in Roman times. The Romans were among the first to understand the importance of roads as public goods, spaces that were accessible to all citizens, not just the elite or the military. Today, we continue to rely on public roads to move freely within our own societies, and these roads remain essential to our daily lives. The idea that roads are shared spaces built for the common good is a key component of modern infrastructure and is a direct legacy of the Roman road system. But beyond the practical and symbolic roles that Roman roads played, their enduring legacy lies in their long-term impact on the world's infrastructure systems. The Romans understood that building for the future was key to ensuring the longevity of their empire. They built roads not just for the present moment, but with an eye on the future, knowing that these roads would continue to serve generations to come. This forward-thinking approach to infrastructure is something that continues to inspire modern engineers and planners. Today, when we design and build roads, bridges, and other infrastructure projects, we aim to create systems that will stand the test of time, just as the Romans did. The durability of Roman roads, many of which still exist today, is a testament to the foresight and skill of Roman engineers. In fact, many modern highways, especially in Europe, follow the same routes as Roman roads. The fact that these ancient roads have withstood centuries of wear and tear is a testament to the Roman commitment to building roads that could endure for the long haul. In much the same way, modern infrastructure projects are built with the intention of lasting for generations, ensuring that future generations will benefit from the same interconnectedness that we enjoy today. Finally, as we reflect on the enduring legacy of Roman roads, it becomes clear that their influence goes far beyond the physical infrastructure they left behind. Roman roads were a blueprint for the future, a model for creating connections between people, cultures, and ideas. Today, as we continue to build new roads, railways, and communication networks, we are building on the foundations that the Romans laid. Their commitment to connectivity, efficiency, and sustainability continues to guide us as we develop the infrastructure that will shape the world of tomorrow. In the end, the story of Roman roads is a story of vision. The Romans understood that the key to maintaining an empire, to fostering unity and prosperity, was to create a connected world. The roads they built were not just pathways, they were pathways to the future. And even today, when we drive on highways, travel by train, or communicate across the globe, we are walking in the footsteps of the Romans, following the roads they laid and continuing the work they began more than 2,000 years ago.